Here. There we go. All right. Good morning, everyone. We'll start in just a few minutes. So glad you're here. We are, Susan Kenyon is there in front of our.
Oh, you muted us.
I did?
No, she did.
I did. I think I did. Sorry.
Okay.
Hello.
It's okay.
Susan Kenyon is one of our wonderful agents here from Portsmouth. We are the Portsmouth Market Center, Market Center 463. I am Zoe Kirkpatrick. I'm one of our productivity coaches, and rounding us out is Melissa Burke, our Market Center tech trainer. We're very pleased to be with you this morning. And yeah, if you have questions, put them in the chat. Come off mute, shout them out. We love all the interaction. So yeah, and we'll wait for a few more people. And in the meantime, do you want to introduce yourselves? If anyone's at home and not driving and safe to do so.
Yeah, what market center is that? Where are you guys all from?
My name is Kat. I'm a new, a new agent at the Beverly Market Center.
Good morning.
Awesome. Welcome, Kat. Not too far away from us in Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
No, I go up there often. It's really lovely up there.
Awesome.
Let's see. And now, has everybody had a chance to put their cameras on? It helps us to be able to see you if that's possible. I know we have a few people on without their cameras, but maybe it's just starting to come on.
All right, we have a couple minutes. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay. All righty. Let's see.
Do you know what session number yesterday's class was?
Was it, are we?
16.
Okay.
Yeah. I
What
think
was it?
Yesterday's, I believe, was 16.
Do you remember what the title of it was?
Give me just a second and I will let you know.
Because it feels like we're finally getting into the heart of being a real estate agent, meaning not lead generation, actual what real estate agents do for work, meaning, you know,
Brian,
paperwork and sit down with a customer and what to say, how to fill out paperwork. It's like, finally, like the
I'm
sun
so
just came
pleased
out
that you
today,
said that.
ironically enough.
I'm so pleased you said that, Brian. So, Brian, where are you from? First of all, what market center are you from?
I'm brand new and I'm out of the Bedford office.
Oh, great. Excellent. You and Kat out of Bedford. Awesome.
Bedford, New Hampshire. Yep.
Oh, Bedford, New Hampshire. Kat, you're out of Beverly, Mass. I'm sorry. You said the B's this morning, or am I mixing them up? Sorry.
All good. It's Friday morning.
So the reason why there is so much about lead generation in Ignite, and Susan can stop me and correct me when I'm speaking completely false, but the reason that fully half of Ignite is about lead generation is because as a real estate agent, you have two jobs, right? Most people think of real estate agents as having one job, which, Brian, as you said, is the working with clients, the serving them in their real estate needs. Do people need to buy or sell a home or do something with investment? All of that, right? You actually have, that is, yes, a full part of your job, but it's actually a full 50% of your job.
I know, but I felt like I was learning nothing but lead gen, and it's not just from Ignite. I'm talking all the classes I've been attending at the Bedford office, mostly on Zoom now because I had a foot issue, but that's beside the point. So like for 2.5 months now, I'm like, when am I going to learn real estate? I understand lead gen. I get it. I need to learn what to do at a buyer presentation, what to do at an open house, what to do at a closing, what to do. I feel like you're asking me to get all these leads, but I don't know anything. I don't know what to do.
Sure. And that's why, yeah, now we're here. Now we're here, right, Brian? And for the other folks who maybe, have done it like, their opportunity has been to learn how to do contracts and, contract to close and that kind of thing. If they don't have clients, if they don't know lead generation and they can't do that, well, then you can memorize every agreement in your state. But if you don't have clients, then actually you're not a practicing real estate agent. So you need both. You need both of these things. You need two hands. You need both 50% to make
Would
up
you
your
consider lead
goal.
generation door knocking?
Absolutely.
Because
Or
that's how I'm
going to
gonna
the
build.
grocery store can be lead generating.
That's how
Anything
I'm
where
gonna
you're putting
build the
yourself
bulk of
out
my
there.
business.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, door knocking is fantastic lead generation.
I don't know
100%.
why a lot of people frown on it, the door knocking, but I'm looking forward to it. That I'm gonna tear it up.
Great. If it works for you, go for it. Love that, Brian. Okay, I'm going to pass it over to Susan.
Okay,
Susan Kenyon.
Yeah,
awesome.
And actually, before, I was
last
going to say, we need some more cameras on.
Yeah, guys, please put your cameras on. It's so much more interactive. It's so much better for me teaching this for the next 2.5 hours. We're going to be here together. We're in the relationship business where we have to be seeing people. So please put your cameras on. We only have 3 people here with cameras on. So how we participate here is how we participate everywhere, especially everywhere being out there in the public. So how we participate here is going to be really important. And this is a super fun Ignite session about making and receiving offers. And it's, the whole lead gen part, and we're going to get into the growing your business, running your business piece of it. But the making and receiving offers is really fun because now you've kind of gone through the lead gen process and you're working with people and you're in that position where offers are going to be starting to be written up. So if you are here for Ignite and you're here for making and receiving offers, congratulations, you're in the right spot. I love to be interrupted. So of course, interaction is super important. If you have anything, feel free to just unmute yourself. And really, you guys, 3 people with cameras on, this is so disappointing. Put your cameras on, please, someone put your cameras on.
And it's okay if you don't look great. We don't look great. We were all up late last night out here in Portsmouth. So yeah.
And we're not above calling people out. Watch out. It's all said with love, but we are not above calling you out.
Yeah. So, it's 2.5 hours that Zoe, Melissa, and I are here giving you, pouring into you. So please receive that with some interaction, and we want to see your faces. Please. And I'm coming from like a kind of a shit show kind of morning here. Oops, and we're being recorded, but hey, this is real life here. I'm used to being on a Mac, and I came to set everything up here in my office, and something's happening. My Mac is kind of dying a slow death. And so I had to hop over here into my husband's office, and he doesn't use a Mac. And so I'm a little off my game. So forgive me if I'm looking a little bit lost and even moving slides forward, because it's actually kind of different for me. So, but moving straight ahead, cameras on would be great. Participation would be great. Zoe is going to be monitoring the chat if you don't want to unmute, but certainly feel free to unmute if you have like a question, an experience, or just a thought to share. That would be fantastic. My name is Susan Kenyon. I have been in real estate for 10 years. I work out of the Portsmouth, New Hampshire office. My husband and I have an office in Dover, New Hampshire, an agent office, and we service Southern New Hampshire and Southern Maine, because where we are located, I'm like a 10-minute drive to Southern Maine. So we do service both some Maine and some New Hampshire locations. I love being in real estate because I do feel, the reason I'm here is I love helping people make great decisions around their real estate needs. And we're really in the relationship business. So that's why I'm here, and I applaud all of you for being here. And first off, for choosing Keller Williams, I just have to always give accolades to KW. They've gone out to top producing agents and said, what do you guys do What have you done to be successful? And what do you continue to do to be successful? And that is how Ignite has been written around what top producing agents have been doing and consistently do to be successful in their field. So, hey, we don't need to recreate the wheel. Let's just do what they're doing. And I've always been an advocate of that since I've been at Keller Williams. So to get started, you guys have probably seen, I missed a couple slides. I'm going to back up here a little bit. Maybe I didn't. Okay. Today we are kind of on the tail end of Ignite here, where we're doing, we're talking about the transaction, which I'm super passionate about. Making and receiving offers is really a time for you guys to be selling, and we're going to talk a lot about that. And we're going to look at this from the perspective of, making offers on behalf of our buyers, and how do we do that effectively? And not just talking about the actual offer and the paperwork, right? Because we have a lot of different states here. How do we do that from a sales perspective to put our buyer in the strongest position to get their offer accepted? Because it's not always about price, which we'll get into. And how do we receive offers on behalf of our sellers? What kind of activities and questions do we need to do when we're receiving offers on behalf of our sellers? So that's what we're going to talk about today. And this is just such a fantastic slide here. And I haven't been on all of these calls for Ignite, but I'm sure you've seen this during other sessions. And this is our belief system at Keller Williams. And I actually use this when I am working with my buyers and sellers. And when we're working on things like making offers and receiving offers, and the psychology behind what is going on with a buyer and what is going on with a seller, they're not always in the win-win or no deal mindset. A lot of times buyers or sellers might be in the what's in it for me mindset. So we need to be communicating with our buyers and sellers on the importance of a win-win or no deal. When we're going into making an offer and hopefully going under contract, we're now in a relationship with new people into the party here for 30 to 60 days. And starting off that relationship with the making and receiving offers is super important, that everyone has that feeling. Hey, Deb Cody, nice to see you and to see your face. Promoting that win-win feeling on both sides of the transaction is part of selling. And it's also can be part of what gets your buyer's offer accepted, even if price is not, your offer isn't the highest price. So I love that we're starting off our belief system with win-win or no deal. Integrity, do the right thing. Always. I wake up, and I apologize for people that have listened to me teach these classes before. When I wake up in the morning, I tell myself, I come from integrity, I am honest, and I am fair. When I then go out into my business every day, and we're working with some high-strung people sometimes, right? We bump into people, we don't know what's happening on their end, on their life. They might not always be giving us their best at that moment. But I've already decided when I woke up that I come from integrity and I do the right thing. So when I have to now interact in that maybe confrontational scenario, I don't have to think about my reactions because I've already decided that I come from integrity and I do the right thing. So I love the integrity, do the right thing. Customers always come first. And our clients, they come first. Commitment in all things. If we're going to go all in, people, we need to be all in what we're doing, all in our lead generation, all in the relationships that we have with our customers and clients. And you're going to hear me talk a lot today about our co-broke relationships, because Deb probably already knows how strongly I feel about how important we play in our field with our co-brokes. So commitment in all things and communication, we seek to understand, especially when we have all these methods of communications flying at us, right? We have texts and emails and phone calls, and what is the right kind of communication to do at the right time? Creativity, ideas before results. We're certainly in a market where we have to be creative especially when we're making offers on behalf of our buyers. teamwork, everyone achieves more. That couldn't be more true. We're creating a strategic team for our clients at the moment when we're making and receiving offers. So we need to have an attitude and a mindset of teamwork, because we're going to be pulling in co-brokes and lenders and appraisers and inspectors and you know, good Lord, sometimes parents of our clients. That's hard too, right? So teamwork is important, and trust starts with honesty. Always be honest, even when it's hard. And that's where we have to decide every day that we are honest. And when something is starting to go sideways, we pick up the phone and we communicate. Equity, opportunities for all, and success is results through people. So this is the KW belief system. And if there are good rules to go by, especially if you're in a situation where you don't know what to do, just remind yourself that this is our roadmap. And we plug in whatever pieces of work that we're doing that day into this roadmap. Okay. So today's agenda, we're going to go through the whole offer process, right? From both sides. We're going to talk about preparing the offer, writing the offer, presenting the offer. And, you know, we're going to toss in the how we're doing that with what types of communication, how we're going to receive and respond to offers. And as we go through today, if anything resonates with you, jot it down so that as we near the end of our time together today, we can share what our recaps and our ahas might be. Okay. And then, of course, we're always going to mention what our daily success system looks like. Okay. Okay. So this is a great quote here. Make sure I didn't go too fast. I like to think of sales as the ability to gracefully persuade, not manipulate a person or persons into a win-win situation, right? So we're not trying to get anyone to do something that they don't ultimately want to do. We're here to help them to decide. And I actually hijacked I help people make great decisions from Tim Lindsay, who is another one of our productivity coaches. And he said that, I don't know, a very long time ago in some training that I was in, and I used that. So sometimes when I'm calling people and, you know, just speaking to people in my database or whatever, or I bump into someone and they say, hey, what do you do? And sometimes I'll just say, I help people make good decisions. I don't force them to buy a house. I don't force them to sell a house. I just help them make a good decision for them and their family in the moment that they're in. Right. And sometimes that might look like they think that they want to sell, but maybe that isn't the right decision for them and their family at that moment. But that's my job, is to help them sort through the buying and selling process to help them make a good decision. Okay. The whole persuade part is also important, because we're not persuading them, but sometimes we need to remind people of their motivation. So you guys probably were talking about motivation when you were going through the lead generation modules, that we always have to find out what people's motivation is. Why do they want to buy? You know, that whole, you know, family, occupation, those conversations around the Ford scripts, you're digging into finding out why do they need to make a change? Is their family getting bigger? Is their family getting smaller? Are they working from home? Are they going back to the office? Do they have aging parents? Do they need a second home? What is it that's motivating them to need to make a change? So then as we're going through the process and they might be wondering, like, what's the right next step? We can bring them back to their motivation. Okay, so we're going to start with, my slides are in my book here a little bit out of order, but we're going to start with the offer process. And so we're going to start from this perspective with the first thing that we're going to do from a buyer perspective is you've taken them out shopping. They find something that they really like and want to put an offer in. So we're going to make an offer. And we're going to go over all of these squares in more detail in the next few slides. So I'm going to read them off, but don't worry, we're going to be getting into some more nitty gritty and detail. Thank you so much, Henry and Camden and Judy, for joining us with your cameras. We really appreciate that and encourage some other folks to jump on there with their cameras. So the buyer makes an offer, and then three things happen, right? We can negotiate. We can, well, basically the seller has three options once the buyer makes an offer. They can either counter the offer, accept the offer, and reject the offer. And when I am working with a buyer, especially a new buyer, they don't necessarily understand that piece of the process, that you put your best foot forward on your offer, because the seller does have those three options. They don't have to come back and negotiate with you. And not all buyers understand that. But the seller has three options: accept, reject, or negotiate. Okay. If the buyer chooses to negotiate, thanks. If the buyer chooses to negotiate, then you're doing that back and forth. And anything in your offer can be negotiated. So the seller can respond in one of those three ways. And it's always important to remember that if they go and jump to we're just going to reject the offer, it's important to understand that no is not always no, right? The co-broke relationship is really important here, because we're all going to have those buyers that are like, I'm going in, I've bought a lot of properties, I'm going in at half the asking price. Then that offends the seller. They just don't want to play, so they just reject the offer. That doesn't mean it's a no. Now is where your teamwork and your communication with your co-broke is important, because you can go back to the table and make another offer. It doesn't mean that once they reject it that you don't have the option to potentially make another offer. But here in that playground is really important. How you react as an agent is important, because none of this that is happening here is personal for us. It's business. So we have to keep our emotions in check when we're making offers, right? If we're making an offer on behalf of someone that is not quite there yet with the win-win mentality, we still have to make the offer. We still have to communicate with our co-brokes so that we're keeping the emotion level down and not letting this become personal and make it about business. Okay. Does that make sense to everybody? Awesome. And we're going to keep going, and we're going to get into all of these things, because this is where it gets really fun. So we're going to talk about preparing the offer. And this is a lot of work, right, guys? We don't throw offers together. We do some homework here before we actually start writing the offer. So especially in this market, or the market that I'm seeing in Southern New Hampshire and Southern Maine, which is probably very similar to you guys, we're still in an inventory shortage, right? We've had a lot of shifts and changes in our market, but there's still more buyers than there are properties for them to buy. So especially if you're in a competitive situation, we want to call and make sure that the property is still available. I have showing lined up for tomorrow, and luckily that agent already reached out to me to tell me that it's going under contract, but not every agent is going to remember to do that, because they're really busy on the receiving offers before we had a chance to get out there, right? So we want to make sure the property is still available. We want to start building rapport with the listing agent. We want them to want to work with us, because how they present your offer, they're going to have personality behind that when they're speaking with their seller. We want them to say, you know what, Susan's a great co-broke. She's going to get us to the table. They're going to be easy to work with. We're going to be able to get through this together more easily with this agent maybe than another agent.
Are you
Okay.
saying there are times you'll bring somebody to show them a house and surprise, it's already sold?
Yeah,
under contract?
that can happen. And I can't even figure out how to turn my, okay. Yes, that has happened. And guys, I have to tell you, when that happens, don't show your client that you're mad and angry and upset, because it's frustrating when that happens. But we also have to give grace all of the time. I have to ask for grace all the time, And if you get snarky with someone because they've done that to you, remember when you get really busy, you might do that to somebody by accident. So yeah, that can happen. That's why it's our job as agents to kind of be driving the bus in both directions. It's a busy market. I set up showings on Tuesday for a Saturday showing. You bet I better make sure that property's still available before I go out there. Okay.
Well, it's an opportunity too, Susan, to stay curious, right? And say,
Absolutely.
are they accepting second, backup offers?
Yep.
Which depending upon the market, and if you don't want to handcuff your buyers, you might not do that on a Friday afternoon going into a busy weekend of showings. And if they really want the property, it's pretty important to ask that question.
Yep. Yep. And definitely get the backup offer. So I don't want to, I am a squirrel, so feel free to bring me back too when I go out too far. But definitely write the backup offers, because we see deals fall apart all of the time for financing or whatever. Inspection goes
right.
sideways.
Yep.
You have the opportunity to jump right in it and without skipping a beat on a house. So backup offers are a really fantastic tool.
So
And
it's
the ever
almost like
famous-
it's almost like you're next in line to buy the house, kind of.
Yeah. So if you're a backup offer in writing, that means if that first deal falls apart, it doesn't go back out on the market for everybody else to see. There's also, we're in multiple states here, so I don't want to cross over any compliance issues, but the basic piece of that is that you then, with specific notifications, move into first place. So it doesn't go back out to the open market and multiple offers if it's all in writing and done correctly.
Yeah, to Susan's point, we're having a 6-8 conversation, guys. So don't forget to talk to your local leadership, talk to your local broker about how they want you to attack that. Also fascinating, Susan, is when you're with a particular buyer, and as soon as you walk up and they're like, "We just received an offer," you have to believe the listing agent. You want to presume that they're telling the truth, and then the buyer is just like, "Oh, like just because somebody else made an offer, now they're like, oh, I don't want to compete for the home." Well, the moment you woke up this morning, it was on sale to the whole planet, so you've been competing for the home the whole time. So, like, just because there's another offer in, you want to get in on that conversation. And again, the backup offer. But again, talk to your local leadership, talk to your broker about how you want to attack that per your state.
Yep. Yep. And that whole piece too is like, remember that creativity part of the belief system? Backup offers are part of that. Not every agent's going to do that. Be the best agent for your client. And this is where we're building rapport with the listing agent, right? Super important. We need good relations out there in our marketplace. Our reputation is very important. Everyone talks to each other. I know there's a lot of licensed agents in every state, but it's really a small world. So build rapport with the other agent. Inquire about activity. Some agents will tell you more than what they should. Our job is to ask the questions. Even if it's a question I wouldn't answer if somebody asked me, I still ask it. How many showings have you had? How many offers do you have? What has been the feedback? What's the most important thing to, your seller? How are the other offers? I put an offer in the other day and we were the 4th offer, and she just said, I have other offers. I said, well, here's ours. Like, how am I looking? She's like, well, you're lower than the others. I said, by how much? Like, would I answer that? Probably not, but she did. She let me know where I needed to be. So inquire about the other offers on the property. If there was an offer and it came back on the market, why? Why did it fall through? Right? Come from curiosity. Think of the questions your buyer is going to ask when you go back and say the property's back on the market. Have all of those questions answered. Ask questions about the seller motivations and their needs. Right? Why are they moving? What's the most important thing to them? Did you look at the deed and see that there's 2 people on it, but there's magically only one person that's selling? Why? Oh, great, they're getting divorced. Not great that they're getting divorced, but now.
From a business standpoint, it's phenomenal. Yeah. Sell 1 house, buy 3, Yeah.
Right. So that was
Can I
my
ask you a
situation.
question?
Yeah.
So even though you don't have to disclose like what the prices are for the offers, do you have to disclose why it fell through? If you're the listing agent and someone asks that, do you have to disclose that?
Well, we have to be honest. If something fell apart because now there's a defect with the property,
Mhm.
It's not our job to hide facts. So if there's a defect with the property, we have to be honest about that. And if it was buyer financing, then I would say it was buyer financing. Do I have to say exactly what happened with the buyer financing? No, I don't. It could be a multiple things with buyer financing. But as a buyer's agent and we're preparing to write an offer, you have to ask the question. Because what we're ultimately
to your
doing
point,
is
Susan. Go ahead.
Yeah. We need to match up a buyer that wants to buy and a seller that wants to sell and get those guys in relationship.
To your earlier point too, don't refrain from asking the question because you wouldn't answer it.
Yeah.
Like our job is to stay curious. Like we're supposed to be the sleuth on behalf of our client. And if you keep asking questions, I mean, raise your hand if you're a realtor and you like to talk. Right. So you're just like, you're feeling giddy. You're like, yeah, you know what? I mean, we're supposed to keep all their motivations. Our clients' motivations are supposed to be close to the vest. We're not supposed to share that at all. But you'll start to ask a listing agent. And we've probably all had it happen. I know you've had it happen, Kenyon, for sure. Like you've asked and like, oh yeah, they're breaking up. Or it's really obvious that all her clothes aren't in the house anymore when you start to tour the home.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. It's
Yep.
a lot of golf polos and no high heels. Yeah. Like I feel like they're not living together anymore. Then you don't have to ask. You can just sort of figure it out,
True.
There's a TV and a lawn chair in the living room. She's left. She took the furniture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those are the things we're supposed to be looking at, right? When you guys did the working with the buyer and showing them property, they're looking at whether or not their bed will fit in the bedroom and their living room furniture will fit in the living room. We're looking for clues of motivation. We're looking for any property damage, things of that nature, in case our buyer wants to write an offer. So learning their motivation, the seller motivation, is huge when you're learning to prepare an offer, because now you might be able to really customize that offer to a piece that will resonate with the seller. It's not always about price. Okay. Ask the listing agent how they want to receive the offer. Right. There are some people that are, I'm all in on .loop or DocuSign or whatever the electronic signing format is. There's some that only want PDFs in an email. How do they want to receive the offer? Obtain the buyer's pre-approval from the lender. Okay. We're also in a time where rates are shifting, things are moving around, programs are changing. We need an updated pre-approval from our lender. So connect with that lender and make sure that you have the best possible information available. Obtain the review the MLS and the tax records. Right, that's really important. The tax records are important. Has the house just been fully renovated? It's a flip, and the assessment is from when it was a dump. You have to prepare your buyer that your taxes are definitely going up. Right, you don't want that phone call when the next tax season comes out and they're like, how come my taxes are like 40% higher than they were when you sold me the property? Because they might not be able to afford it now, depending on where you live. Tax rates up around where I am they can vary and be very high. So we want to look at the tax records, right? We want to look at the tax card. Was there work done? Can you tell there's been renovations, but you're not seeing any permit history here? Come from curiosity. If it's a flip, please ask about permits. Please make sure work was done correctly. Okay. We need to look at those tax records. We need to make sure that the tax bill is correct, right? We can't just go by what's said on the MLS, because the lender is going to go most likely off of what's on the MLS for qualifying your buyer. Part of what they're qualifying for with that purchase price and their monthly payment is how much is the taxes for that property. So make sure the tax information is correct. Produce a CMA, right? You got to run comps on these things when you're writing it off. You can't assume that the listing agent priced it within comps that have closed, because even though we are still in a situation where inventory is short, there's still agents and sellers that will put a super inflated price on a house. Right? So do a CMA, obtain a seller's disclosure statement and all other needed documents. So if the listing agent doesn't have that information available to you online, then just call and get it. And part of our our values, we need to give grace when that happens, right? Not everyone puts everything online. Not everybody has the time. Maybe they're new. Maybe they're just rushing. Don't assume that they're like not doing their job. If they don't have everything available to you online, just be nice to them, call them and get it. That's part of our job. That's part of building rapport with the listing agent. But you need to get that information because the buyer should have that prior to making an offer. Okay, so part of this preparing to write the offer is do not rush. We work quickly without rushing, right? And when you're doing like the CMA piece, please save that stuff. I haven't always done that. I have started in the last couple of years. I save those CMAs if I'm recommending or sending information to a client. Depending on what you're using, .loop or DocuSign or Command, whatever, you can save that stuff. I do save it so that if they ever come back and they're like, well, that was way more than they should have offered on that price on that house. You have the information that you gave to them. Okay.
Is there gonna be like classes on these later ones down here, like review MLS and tax records, produce a comparative market analysis? Are we gonna be taught how to do those things?
You should go to your market center on that, because me producing a CMA in New Hampshire is going to be different than you doing it down in Massachusetts. I don't know your systems.
I'm
So
in New Hampshire.
not during
Oh.
Ignite, or maybe there was a CMA section on in Ignite. Is there, Tim?
We talk about
I
it,
don't
but
think
again,
so.
this is where we're going to send you to make sure you're going to your local contract class at your market center or classes.
Yeah.
And then from a CMA standpoint, your local MLS, and you said you were in New Hampshire, so there's a CMA toolkit, and then find out if there's anyone either on your ALC or local leadership that is teaching some sort of a, CMA class / absorption conversation. Not one and the same, but both very powerful. Does everybody
Yeah.
know what absorption is?
I do not.
It's when you spill something, you grab some bounty and you clean. No, I'm just kidding. It's not. So no, it's the conversation about the amount of listings or inventory that's active and the time that it's active in your marketplace. And it's a powerful way to have a similar conversation with your client about what the current competition is and why it's important to understand days on market and using what's currently on the market to help them price retroactively to what they should be today. Because I think people get lost in the matrix with, well, we're going on the market today and we're going to talk about who's been on the market. That's powerful. But then the next day, the day after that, the competition that keeps joining is going to start to use them as leverage. So it's nice that you love your neighbors, but you're selling your neighbor's house if you don't price it well.
Yeah.
So
And if
this
Nathan
all
did-
changes on a daily basis or a weekly basis? Everything changes?
Hey.
Absorption's pretty fluid, yeah, because it's constantly taking the data of the day and looking at historical data and also what joined the market. It's not like fluid, like every 23.5 hours. Don't lose any sleep over it, but it's something you should be well versed in. So you can certainly understand how to have that conversation with your clients, because some clients will love a CMA if they're high, on your disc profile. If you're Dorcosaurus Rex and you want the numbers and pie charts and bar graphs, you're going to be like, awesome, give me all that. But if you can sit and just have a conversation about absorption and make them see it differently, right, and create perspective for them to view it differently, it's going to be more powerful, right? Logic makes them think. Who's taking bold? Raise your paw if you're taking bold. Anybody? 2.5 people. 3. Excellent. If you're taking bold, they talk about logic makes them think, emotion makes them act. So if we can create emotion with that conversation, and I think absorption, maybe it's a logical conversation, but it creates more emotion because they can feel what's going on in the market around them.
Yep. And that's our job, right? That whole skill piece, it's our job to know what the market looks like. It's our job to know what competition there is for sellers. It's our job to know from a buyer perspective, if there isn't any other houses, if there is no other competition. So yeah, you're learning your market. Your MLS should have some resources on how to prepare a CMA. And it doesn't have to be complicated, guys. I would encourage you to find a simple way to run some comparables. And then if you want to get more detailed after the fact, do that, but don't overthink running comparables. It doesn't have to be fancy and look like a 25-point presentation, color glossy. It has to just be there to start. Okay. Hey, Camden.
I was looking actually on MLS the other day, and they have a bunch of training videos at the top right. It just says the training library. I think there's 2 or 3 specifically on CMAs, Brian, if you wanted to check those out. I also did just take a class. It was like an hour long where she did one with you. If you want, I can also send that over to you if you wanted to watch that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, drop your email. I'll send it over.
Awesome. Nice job, Camden.
Susan.
Got you.
Hi.
Hi. So I just had a buyer reach out. She's very interested in a property that we're going to look at on Saturday. There's an open house, but there's already been a lot of interest generated. So much so that the agent put an offer deadline for Monday. The inventory for her budget is super low. This is basically the only thing in the area that she's looking, and she's been looking for a while. So she just, sent me a text a few minutes ago asking if it's possible to put in an offer without viewing the property, which I'm, would be very hesitant to do. She's 2 hours away, so she like physically cannot go to the property. I can, probably schedule a showing for myself today, but how would you advise that? So I know you can put an offer in and still have it contingent upon inspections and whatnot.
Yeah. So it is a little, that is a tough one. I would
Mhm.
definitely do a video showing with her and just have her on FaceTime and put the
Mhm.
offer in if she wants to put the offer in. Having the video option there is really key, because depending on the listing agent, like if I'm your listing agent, I do not like offers with sight unseen, especially if you're in a multiple offer situation, because I've been burned by them so many times where,
Right.
then the wife comes at the inspection and backs out for the inspection.
Right, exactly.
But you miss every shot that you don't take, Deb.
Mhm.
And you have to do, if your client wants you to do that, then that's what we do. You just build in those fail safes for them. I would
Mhm.
also not wait for the offer deadline, because, a seller can accept an offer at any time.
Right, and
So
that's what
if
I
it's
told my buyer.
Yeah, if it is a hot property, I would go do the video walkthrough.
Mhm.
If she can get up here on the weekend and then have a second showing or go to the open house, then do that.
Right.
That would be what I would do.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Okay. We're gonna skip the ahas until later, because I have a tendency to gab a little bit here. So now we're gonna move into writing the offer, right? So we have all of our prep work done. We're ready to write the offer. And what's important here is everything in an offer can be countered, and every piece of an offer is a chance to sell. So it's not always about price, right? Price and terms. We're going to put that information into the offer. And we are in a changing market. So it might not always be full price. It might be more. It might be a little bit under. It might be over. So know your market. Know if it is still super competitive. Right. We're going to make sure that we have the seller's disclosures, and please read them. I feel like not every buyer's agent actually reads, or listing agent actually reads, the property and seller's disclosures. So go through those with your client. What's conveying with the property, meaning the refrigerator, what personal property is conveying with the property. What are you going to do for a deposit, right? So if you're in a really competitive situation, a higher deposit will show more skin in the game than maybe another offer that has a lower deposit. A higher deposit might show more financial stability of a buyer than somebody that only wants to put $1,000 down. All of those things are going to get looked at when we talk about the receiving offer part of that, right? You're going to write in there anything for due diligence or inspections. Right? How many days are we going to have for that? Right? And is there a time limit for seller acceptance? When are they accepting these? Are you going to put an expiration on there? I don't like expiring offers. And depending on when if you're in Maine, we have to put a date in there. Don't jam me up, man. If I'm the listing agent and you're jamming me up on a Sunday when the Patriots are playing and you give me like 2 hours, you're already on a bad relationship with me. And I'm probably going to call you and tell you that.
Well, the good news is the Patriots aren't playing this
True.
weekend. Wait a minute. No. Anyway, yeah, that's a Nathan Dickey term right there. Jam me up. And honest to God, this is not a horror movie. This is not West Side Story, Sharks versus Jets. Like, don't make it like ridiculous. 11:59. Don't do it. Don't make it
Right.
doomsday. And in the market we just came out of, Susan, like putting and like holding a proverbial gun to their head doesn't work.
No.
Right. The magical sentence is,
It-
what does a great offer look like to your sellers?
Yep.
And
Yeah.
let the listing agent fill in the blanks. They're going to say cash yesterday with like soft serve ice cream and a unicorn ride, but like take it for what it's worth and just ask that question. Let them fill in the blanks. I
Yeah.
guarantee a timestamp is not going to serve your buyers well.
No.
Usually.
You usually will not. And remember, that's our job, right? Our job is to get the contract for your buyer. So you jamming me up and starting off
Mhm.
on the wrong foot, I'm like, it's not going to go well. What are the financing terms? Right? Is it a VA loan? Is it an FHA loan? Are they putting, 5% down? Are they 100% financed? What is
I don't
that
know,
looking
Susan,
like?
my unsigned buyer hasn't talked to a lender yet. Is that
Ugh.
important?
No, just put it in anyway.
We're stressing, make sure
Don't-
your buyers
don't
are
be that-
signed. They're not your buyers if they're not signed to work with you. And they should
Right?
talk to a person who can lend them money professionally
Yeah.
in the daytime. Yeah. Not
We-
like money in a log.
Yeah, we had a condo listed and had Saturday, Sunday open houses last weekend. And I think we received 5 offers. 3 of them had no pre-approval when they submitted the offer. Don't do that. You're not doing your buyer a service, a good service anyway, if you're not submitting a complete offer. And part of that is the pre-approval. Okay. And find out from the, I hope you're working with your buyer and your lender. How pre-approved are they? Did they fog a mirror and say, oh, I have a credit score? And they spit out a pre-approval? I'm going to ask that as the listing agent. I'm going to call the lender and ask that as the listing agent. And the lender's going to have to tell me, right? Because we all are honest, right? So your job when you're working with your buyer is to make sure that they're doing those things. If they can get fully pre-approved and the docs have already been submitted, you can use that as a selling tool when you're submitting an offer for them. Closing date, when you called the listing agent, did you ask what kind of closing date works best for your seller? Right? Is there a home warranty? We may be moving back into the areas where we are offering home warranties from our sellers into our buyers. I don't see a lot of them. Back when it was a real buyer's market, we were seeing home warranties, which is a third party that offers either the buyer or the seller pays for a home warranty. And then there's different levels of what is being warranted based off of how much you pay. If you want more information on that, then just Google it, Home Warranty of America or something like that. But you may start seeing language around home warranty if we move into more of a buyer's market. Repair limits. Are there going to be repairs made to the property? Are there any special clauses, right, that have to be put into your offer? Are you doing an escalation clause? Are you doing an appraisal clause one way or the other? What are we writing into this offer to A, make it competitive so that our buyers win the offer, and B, protecting our buyers to make sure that we're not leaving them open to a future problem. And addenda, are there any addendas to the offer? Did you have so many clauses that you had to put an addendum together, or is there a seller to find suitable housing, or some other addenda that might be part of the offer? So you're going to want to have all of those pieces written when you're doing the offer.
I think
Is an
Judy's got her hand
addenda,
up.
is an addenda a stipulation?
It's not a stipulation, or it may be a stipulation. So sometimes what state are you in, Brian?
I'm out of the Bedford, New Hampshire office.
Okay, so in the New Hampshire purchase and sales agreement, you may have an addenda attached to your offer, meaning there may be a separate state form addenda that you're attaching. for subject to the home sale for your buyer. Maybe your buyer has to sell a home and use those proceeds towards their next purchase. If it didn't fit within the purchase and sales agreement and you have to attach something, then you need to identify that within the offer. So there's a bunch of scenarios where there might be an addenda. It all depends on what the property is and what your buyer's needs are. But the addenda becomes part. Somebody is not muted. Get here. Thank you, whoever.
Okay, I
fixed
can
that.
hear you a lot better now.
Thank you. So it all depends on the property and the buyer and the scenario. If you can't fit everything into that boilerplated offer, then there may be an addenda, but you do need to identify that because it does become part of the purchase or part of the offer, and then part of the purchase and sales agreement if you go under contract. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Susan, I think, did Judy have a question? Is that why you were unmuted, Judy?
Yeah, kind of a question and a comment as well. I always find on the escalation clause, some agents don't like them. So I like to ask if they like getting escalation clauses, because some do not. Do you agree with that?
No, my job is to represent my buyer.
Mhm.
If they don't like it, my next job is then to educate that person as to what my offer is and how beneficial it is to their seller. I don't do what the listing agent needs. I work for the buyer.
Okay. No, I just wanted to know your feeling on that as well. But what if it says right out, no escalation clauses,
I still do what's best for my
Okay.
buyer, but I sell. What I do is, that whole part about the relationships and the co-broke relationships, the communication, the win-win. My job then is to promote and sell that this offer is a win-win for the seller. It's a win for the buyer, but I'm also creating a win for the seller. And now I need to sell that through verbal communication, not in writing. In writing for the whatever clause you're using. But you need to pick up the phone and really be in relationship with that listing agent, get them on your side on that. If you educate them as to why that's a win for their seller, you're now giving them scripts and ammunition. You're scripting them without them knowing you're scripting them. You're giving them information to go back to the seller. Use the language that you want them to tell the seller to the agent, and that's how it will get delivered back, hopefully. That's the goal.
Thank you.
It's a great
Thank
question,
you.
Judy, because I think a newer agent or even a senior agent could just have embedded, if they're a veteran or a new kid heard it by the water cooler, that escalation clauses or whatever doesn't work. We're unable to say that. We have to present everything to our sellers. We have to present all offers to our sellers. And I think I would just sort of flip it to Susan's point. When they come at you with, I don't like escalation clauses, don't add one. My question would be, is your seller aware of the power that it could contain per this current situation, and just make it, because they can't tell you not to do it, and I think that's really important. And the other thing, and Susan touched on this earlier, so important that, if you were to engage with somebody and the last time you worked with them, they asked you to not do this, not do that. I won't accept it if you don't do this. We never want to bring that conversation back to our buyer or our seller. It's so important. Like Nate talks about this all the time. If we ever burn the other agent in effigy, I can never go back to my clients and be like, hey, listen, so Judy's working really hard on the other side, but I just told them 3 weeks ago, you're a terrible person. Like if I open the show where she's a horrible human being, but then I go back later, I'm like, hey, Henry, by the way, Judy's working really hard to get this done. He doesn't believe me anymore. So whatever my last 75 deals were with you, I gotta go in fresh. She's a remarkable person. It's going to be a win-win. I mean, ultimately, as a coach, we've always said we want it to be a win-win-win-win. I want my agents to win too, but not outside of the victory for our clients. Right. So never start a transaction with, oh my God, Susan Kenyon, this is going to be terrible. You can never go back and be like, no, she's working really hard.
Yeah.
Everybody wants everybody to win. Like, but you just said she was like the devil incarnate 3 weeks ago, Tim.
Yeah.
We can't, so just remember that. But like the agent on the other side can never say, unless they're sitting there with their seller, and that wouldn't normally take place. They've got to present all offers and all possibilities.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I forget who it was, but I was at some training and very a agent that has done a lot of business said he had a mentor once that said part of his job is to make the co-broke look like a superstar to their client. That will also help you, because how you behave in this a transaction also is going to be indicative of how your next client interacting with that agent is going to be accepted or not, right? So if you're not treating that agent very well, and then you have another buyer that wants to put an offer on another one of their listings, you don't want them to do an eye roll when they see that come over their email.
So
For
if the
sure.
other agent's a train wreck, just keep it to yourself, basically?
100%. Our clients
Amen.
don't need to hear that. They don't need to, we don't need to cause them any more stress, and that's all that will accomplish.
And not to the detriment of your own business, Brian, but honestly, it's inside the guardrails of the code of ethics. It's my job. It's your job. It's all of our jobs to make the other person not a train wreck.
Yep.
We can coach them along. We can teach them best practices. I've always said, KW, we have an embarrassment of riches here. Like, not all other kids at other brokerages have all the tools that we have all the support that we have.
I've heard that from several agents who've come from other places, and they're like, wow, I wish I would have started here.
Yeah, the number one regret of a veteran agent that finally joins KW is, I wish I did it 38 years ago. So the fact that you're here is awesome.
Yep.
And then above and beyond that, it's our job to, there's an M in here, there'll be a quiz later, educate them out of stupidity, right? If they're acting that way, because they've got no leadership, maybe at their other brokerage. And we don't necessarily know that, but like if just guiding them along and helping them understand best practices, historically, what's worked best for you. And when you're coming from education, like, do you think there's any other brokerage teaching a class like this on a Friday? I'll wait.
Probably not.
I have no idea.
Yeah, the answer is no.
No. This is the only place I've ever approached.
Well, I love that. Love that. Good for you, Brian.
Yeah. And really, giving grace is such an important part of our job. You don't know what that other agent is going through. And our job is to do the best for our client and get them under contract. So that's the emotional part, where this is business for us, not personal. So we don't go back and talk about how awful the other agent is being, even if they're being terrible. Our sellers don't need that.
And the Pareto principle, right? 20% of the agents are doing 80% of the business. Yeah. You're going to run into these people. I mean, maybe not the train wreck. Maybe they'll decide to go to Kohl's and fold t-shirts for the rest of their life. Who knows? But even if you have somebody who's, always contentious, but they're a veteran, they've been around for 30 years, whatever the case may be, we're probably going to keep rubbing elbows with the same 20%. And it's a small community. Small. People talk. So it just keeps showing up as a guiding light, and it's going to help your business tenfold.
So in other words, you're going to have to deal with that person down the road at some point.
More than likely. So kill them with kindness.
Yeah, more than
kill
likely.
Them with kindness.
And they're going back out into the same marketplace that we exist in, whether it's going out to dinner and they start talking about their business. Do you want them to be in a busy restaurant and have them say, oh my God, I'm in a transaction with Susan Kenyon and she's awful. She's this, she's that. I want the opposite.
I just heard that last night, actually. Dinner was fine though. The restaurant was beautiful, but anyway.
Yeah, that happens. We want them to say, no, she was great. I would do another transaction with her any day of the week. That's
you want your offer to hit their inbox and for their eyes to light up.
Yeah, like, yes.
Oh my God, I get to work with Kenyon again. Fun noms, right? Not like, oh dear Lord, where's the scotch? Yeah.
Yeah. And I sell that when we're going to get into presenting the offer. So I'll wait for that nugget at that time. Right. So, and then we need to talk through the offer, right? We sometimes need to be moving quickly when presenting offers if there's deadlines or whatever, but we do need to slow down. Whatever ends up getting signed cannot be changed because somebody made a mistake, and our buyers and our sellers and the other agent might miss something. We're going to work with some buyers who read every line very carefully a gazillion times. They're not going to miss it. And then we have other people that that you send that offer over and they're like, click, 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 and they haven't read anything. And there could be something in there that once you go under, you can't retrieve. That could be a problem. So review the contract. Okay. I review contracts, whether it's agency agreements or purchase or offers, line by line. We go over it line by line, whether they think they want to or not, I can be very quick about it. I can slow down when I'm going over it, but I go over it line by line, because what you don't want to happen is to get under contract and then have something happen and have them go, I didn't know that could happen. Okay. We don't want those phone calls. So review the contract with your buyer line by line. Make sure they understand what each line is. Review details like price, closing date, inspections, contingencies, conveyances. Know what is essential in your area, right? If there's something that is unique to your market, make sure that they're aware. Okay. Know standard or common terms for offers in your area, and avoid rookie agent mistakes. If you're writing offers and you haven't done a lot of them, have another agent look at them. I guarantee you in Keller Williams, there is an experienced agent that would review your offers. Be careful for the whole compliance issues of confidentiality and things of that nature. Talk to your market center about that. But there's probably a coach or somebody in your market center that will help you and look at that offer. If
I have a comment on that.
Yeah, hi Amanda.
Hi, my first offer that I ever wrote, I had to send to my coach, and I actually didn't end up sending it to her. I sent it to my sponsor, but just so everyone on here knows, I had 13 mistakes on there before I sent it over. So it was really nice to have someone in my market center that could look over that, because they were mistakes I wouldn't have even realized, and she just walked me through the whole thing.
Fantastic. Thank you for that share. And we've all been there. We have all been new at one point.
It was my first offer. It was super scary.
I'm glad you had someone to go to, for sure, for sure. So talk through the offer. And then we get to present the offer, right? And this is really where we're going to be selling when we present the offer. And let's start off when we're presenting an offer, like let's be super professional, right? Like double check all your documents. Did everything get initialed, signed? Do I have them all? Do I have the pre-approval? Do I have the property disclosures? Everything that's important? I have my buyers sign everything. The deed, the tax card, a copy of the listing sheet, the property disclosures. I send it all over. Okay. I want them to know that I've reviewed all of this stuff with my buyer. That makes them a more educated buyer and more likely to get to the closing table, and I can sell that to the other side, right? Follow instructions. If they're like, read the non-public remarks in the MLS. God, it's so frustrating when I put something in the non-public remarks on send the offer to this place or that place, and then they do the complete opposite because they never bothered to read it. Seriously, people, that's our job. Read the MLS. Figure out, ask them before you even send it over, how do you want me to send it? And then do that. Right? Label all the documents clearly. Isn't it fun when we get an offer and it's 40 pages in one PDF that I then have to go through and separate myself, because I love doing that? No, that doesn't make it very easy for me to now present that to my seller. I want to make this easy for the listing agent to sell this to the seller, not like opening a 40-page document and already being frustrated with my name attached to that offer. Okay. So order the documents logically. Email summary. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to jump over it and then come back to it, because I think that email summary is super powerful. Notify the listing agent, right? I am sending an offer over, or after you've sent it, I've sent an offer over. Make sure they got it. Let's not assume that, right? Especially if it's a Saturday or a Sunday. We allow agents to have personal lives. So maybe somebody is with their family. I have gotten calls on a Sunday night like, did you receive my offer? I sent it over at noon. I haven't heard from you. That's because it's Sunday. I might have been at church, right? I might have been doing something with my family. So call, let them know that it's there. Add all your documents to command, right? We need to be documenting everything, and we need to consult with your buyer, right? Let them know you've presented the offer. You've talked to the agent. This is when you're going to be getting more information from them. Set that expectation, because your buyer is sitting at their house going, I wonder if it's in yet. I wonder if they got it yet. I wonder what they're thinking. I wonder if they liked it. Let them off the hook. say, I sent it. And if the listing agent says, I'm not going to be able to even, I'm sending it over, but I'm not even going to be able to talk to them about offers until this time because the seller is doing this, let your buyer know so that they're not standing by their phone waiting to hear from you. Okay. Now we're going to jump back to email summary. This is where we sell, right? This is, I call it my love letter to the co-broke. This is where I tell them all of the highlights of my offer. Okay. I'm so happy to be sending you over a great offer. Here are some of the highlights of my buyer's offer. And I start using names and not using the seller, the buyer. Here are some highlights of Edward's offer. He's very qualified. He's so qualified, in fact, that he's already sent all of his documents over to the lender and he's fully pre-approved. That means we can get to a quick close and underwriting's already looked at his documentation. Edward doesn't have a home to sell. So he's able to buy this without having a home sale contingency. Okay. We're over asking, and I've run comps, so we're comfortable that this price point is going to appraise. That's super important, which I'll come back to in a second. Maybe there's other factors too, like, maybe they're not doing inspections. Maybe they are doing inspections. And they're doing inspections, but I let them know I've educated Edward on what inspections are for. They are fully aware that it's for a significant defect not previously disclosed. And I've already reviewed all the disclosures. We will not be submitting a honeydew list to your seller. Please let them know that.
So like the bark mulch being the wrong color, that's not a thing that shows up on inspections. I'm just asking for a friend. That's all.
Right.
Yep. You make such a great point, though. Our pre-listing packet or our buyer's value packet to our sellers or our buyers, that's us interviewing for them to hire us. The email that Susan's talking about right now is this is your Indeed page. This is your resume to the seller that you should hire us to purchase the home from you. Like, we are going to be a great fit.
Yeah.
Huge opportunity.
Absolutely. Are they flexible on closing date? Let them know that here. My buyer is flexible on closing date. I put in this date thinking it might work the best for Henry. But if Henry likes a different closing date, let me know. Because they're so qualified, we can do it before 30 days. But if he needs 60, that's fine. Right? We're selling. And I do this in bullet points. So I'm really hoping that I'm making it as easy as possible for the listing agent to print this off and have it in front of them when they're reviewing offers, especially if it's a competitive situation. And then, you know what else I put in there? I put how awesome I am to work with, because I really am a really good co-broke. This is why I get everybody to the closing table. I'm a win-win type of agent. I am solution-based. We're going to get through our contingencies quickly and without stress. And I will communicate with you along the entire process. So sell yourself. So that email love letter to the listing agent can be very powerful. And here's my example on the price isn't always everything. The offer that I put in earlier this week that had the other offers that were higher. The reason that they went with us is that I let them know we were flexible on closing date. And I had the conversation on when she told me that the others were significantly over asking. I asked her how they expected that what would happen to that seller when it doesn't appraise, because it's not going to appraise at that number, because I've already done my homework. And she was like, yeah, you're right. That's going to be a problem. I go, yeah, and you're going to find that out a week before closing. That's not going to appraise. Then it's going to be an argument. So then she had to go back and find out, well, wait, what are we going to do when this doesn't appraise? And the buyer didn't have any money to come. That buyer put in an appraisal clause saying if it doesn't appraise, that the deal is over, they have to renegotiate. Well, I didn't do that. And I put a price in there that was going to work. And I put a closing date that was flexible. And I had a buyer that didn't have a home to sell. And I'm great to work with. And I told them that our inspections were going to be easy. We wouldn't give a honeydew list. So why wouldn't they go? So out of 4 offers, there was one that might have been lower than me. The others were higher. So it's not always price. Your email letter and the phone call. Presenting offers is about a phone call. When you submit that offer, you pick up the phone, you sell You sell your, especially in a competitive situation, you sell your buyer, you sell yourself, and you get that person under contract. Does that make sense to everybody?
So you're saying a deal can fall through if I offer 500,000 and the appraisal comes back at 435, that deal is now dead? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying it is dead. I'm saying it could be dead. Who's going to pay the difference? Your seller now is already expecting 500,000.
Unless the buyer can pay the difference, then the deal's dead.
So if you don't know that they can pay the difference before you go under contract, you're finding this out a week before closing.
Wouldn't it make more sense to have the appraisal before you put the offer in?
No, you run comps to figure out, an appraiser is going to use the same closed comps that we're using.
Oh,
So if you've
okay.
done your job,
Okay, you already know what it's going to appraise for.
I can sell that it will go to that this price is valid. They're going to look at the same information that we have access to. However, let's say we're going to do my math. I like math when I'm calculating commission. Otherwise, I like to keep the number simple. Okay, so we have a $500,000 house. Let's say we have a $400,000 house. Somebody puts an offer in at $500,000. There's no way it's appraising that, because I've already, as a listing agent, if I've already priced it at the top of the market, there's not a snowball's chance in hell that that's appraising for 500,000, right? However, you get your seller to sign that and you get close to closing and the appraisal comes in at 400,000, you try taking that $100,000 away from the seller. They've already spent that money.
I understand what you're saying.
You have to find that information out up front. And if you're competing against, and you can find out that the other agent, there's another agent doing that, man, you can make them look like a clown all day long. And nobody wants to work with a clown when money's involved. Right? So you find out, and from the listing side, which we're going to get to, I'll save my listing side of appraisals and stuff like that for when we get to receiving offers. Selling that we're going to get to a closing table, selling a house is so stressful. One thing a seller wants to know is that I'm going to get to the closing table. This is a lot that happens in that 30 to 60 days. And you need some strong agents there to get both parties to that table, because they're already planning moves. There's real money that gets put down. So having a strong offer, presenting it, knowing your numbers, knowing your comps, and getting to the closing table, it's the best feeling. And that's one of the ways that you're going to be able to win. In a competitive market, you're going to be able to win contracts for your buyers. Okay. Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
Is a comp a comparable market analysis? Is that what that's short for?
Yeah, it's a comparable. Yes, it is. I use comps, and I have to tell you guys, I don't do a fancy comparative market analysis. My CMAs are not like all polished looking, super pretty, glossy, all this like schmoozy marketing stuff in there. It's numbers. I show people active properties that are similar so that they know what the competition is. I show them what's under contract and how many days on market it was before it went under contract. And I show them what has closed. And the closed one is really the strongest comp, because that's what an appraiser will use.
There's a question in the chat. The guy's microphone is broken.
Oh. Okay, what do we got? I think my mic is broken. So the only way the $500,000 offer will go through after being appraised for only 400 is if the buyer understands that they are overpaying by 100K, which is why it is so uncommon. So it may be that, what buyer has $100,000 sitting around, because the lender's not going to lend on that, right? So one of three things are going to happen. The deal's going to fall apart because you guys didn't prepare for that. The buyer's going to come up with the money, or the seller's going to come down. But it's hard to get a seller to come down 100,000 because you haven't prepared them that the buyer's overpaying for the property. If you haven't had that conversation and set that expectation, hard to find a buyer that can just drop another 100 grand. So your deal might fall apart. Now, if you were the smart person that put a backup offer in writing, you're in really good shape, right? Because that deal falls apart, you know, boom, you're sliding into first place.
Not to mention, if the house is actually worth 400,000, why would you want to spend $100,000 more that you're never going to be able to recoup?
Well, you know, I don't judge that, because I did have a property this summer that the offer was $100,000 over list price. The importance there is that I did my due diligence, and I negotiated, well, what are we going to do when the scenario happens? And it will happen, that it will not appraise it. So my price was listed at 425, sold at 525. I knew it was never going to appraise at 525. I asked what was the buyer going to do? Can they cover an appraisal gap? They put in that they would cover any appraisal gap. Then I got proof that they could afford any appraisal gap. Then the market shifted and we were already under contract. Then they tried to renegotiate, which we didn't do. The buyer had to come to the table with an extra 100,000. But I found out ahead of time, so it wasn't going to be a question. And I put it in writing. So if you're in scenarios where offers are over asking, you've run comps, you need to find out ahead of time. How are we handling an appraisal gap? If they can cover one, it gets put in writing. And then there's that's a big squirrel hole, because now it can get complicated, right? Like, how much of an appraisal gap can they cover? They might be able to cover any appraisal gap. Maybe they'll only cover this much of an appraisal gap. It's really important to slow down and put things in writing very carefully. And also making sure when we're putting these things in contracts that both sides understand what's in writing. Because there are agents that won't read through a complicated contingency. And then when it happens, they're like, the shock and awe face comes out. We don't want that. When we go under contract, we want both the buyer and the seller to be clear on what is happening. That's how you get to the closing table happily.
Is that gap, is that written in a mortgage, like an addendum on the mortgage contingency?
No, a lender will not finance on a property. They'll only finance on an appraised value.
No, I mean, in the offer, when you're talking about getting it in writing, that the buyer will come up with the gap, where is that in the contract? Like,
so there's going to be different rules probably on where that goes based on what state you're in, but it is for New Hampshire and Maine, it's in the offer. And it's clear. If there is a gap, this much will be covered, or they won't cover anything. It's equally as powerful to say my buyer will not cover, the property must appraise at or above the purchase price, or we might renegotiate. So now we're getting into like probably some state issues. So I'm going to tread carefully, but it goes into the offer. Now, when you are the buyer, you're representing the buyer, you need to make sure that they understand there is a potential that they would have to come to the table with the cash. Do they have it?
So in the mind of the lender, this house is only worth 400,000. I'm not giving you a penny more for it, because if you
Right.
forfeit on your loan, I'm only getting 400 back when I resell it, basically.
Yes, so that's what the gap is for. That's why you're finding out, can the buyer pay the gap in cash? Has nothing, because it will not get financed. It's cash coming to the table. Are they emptying out a 401k? Where's the money coming from?
This is really good stuff.
Okay. You'll shine with your buyer and your seller when you know to ask more questions. So where were we? What slide was it? Was it the belief system, right? Come from curiosity, get creative. These are the things that you do, but you slow down and you put everything in writing. And there are times where you might be writing these things out. And I'm in a small office here. We'll talk about a contingency for an hour to make sure we have the language right. And then communicate it clearly to the other side, so both sides know what they're getting into. Okay. And did I get it?
I just want to say, you really sound like you know what you're talking about. You are very professional.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you saying that.
Print the shirts, and the next time you see Nathan Dickey, remind him that she's awesome. Yes, she's a national treasure. Susan Kenyon, everybody. I was going to say real quick too, hyper important. John Duffy, who is like the Yoda to Nathan Dickey Skywalker, he's the reason that 463 is here. John Duffy said 1,000 years ago, we work together with our clients to write the contract. So we serve our clients until the contract is written. Then together with our clients, we serve the contract. Like once that is pushed across the table, there are no nuances. There is no gray. It is black ink on white paper. And there should be
I love it.
remarkable understanding. Not like, well, they should know what I mean. Nope.
Nope.
Nope. And I don't love tell it to them like they're a 4-year-old, because that sounds, dismissive. It needs to be hyper clear when you slide it across the table. That there are no nuances.
No
We work with our
nuances.
clients. When the contract is written, we work with our clients to serve the contract until, after we get there. But the
Yep.
contract is the standard. The contract is everything at that point. So there's no, do-overs. Like you're playing kickball and I hit the wires. Like, oh, hold
Right.
on. Like, no, we're here now. Yeah.
And part of the negotiating back and forth part can be, I've asked agents, what are you trying to achieve here? Because I don't understand what you wrote into a contingency. And it's okay to say that, guys. Like sometimes things sound complicated. And I really need to find out, what are you trying to achieve? I might have a better suggestion because I want the contract to get signed. Because at that point we have a buyer that wants to buy and a seller that wants to sell. We need to get them married. What are you trying to achieve? Let's see what I can do to make this happen. And maybe we're rewriting things together. Okay. Okay. And so I'm thinking it is 10:20. We're about to get into receive and respond offers. It might be a good time for a quick break. Does that work for everybody? Okay. How about if we come back at like 10:26, 10:27? If we're all back at that time, I'll jump right back in. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you, Susan.
You bet. All right, I'm back. Who's back? Get your cameras on, people. Come on, Amanda. Lakshmi. I apologize if I butchered your name. Douglas, Barbara. Christofani, Deb, Massimo, Tyler, Alexis, Brian, Nikisha, Camden, Edward, Jason. Thank you, Kat and Henry. Thank you, Edward. Thank you, Camden. Listen, how we participate here is how we participate everywhere. I go after my business every day. And you should be in this class looking like you want to go after getting business. It doesn't look like that when you don't put your cameras on. We don't care if you don't have your hair done. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Lakshmi.
Did you
Am I
just
saying
make
your
a
name?
joke about my hair?
Oh my gosh. I wish Tim was on right now because he now would make a joke about my husband who's in the same situation as you.
Yeah.
Lakshmi, am I saying your name correctly?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, perfect.
Are you sure? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. No, seriously, guys, like it's so, I love teaching these classes, but it's so much more fun when your cameras are on. I'm just like, this is my shock and awe face. You guys don't want to participate with your cameras on. Thank you, Alexis. I appreciate that so much. I'm grateful for you doing that.
My daughter smashed my camera, or else I would turn it on. I'm sorry.
What, honey?
My daughter smashed my camera when she was playing last time she was coloring, or else I would turn it on.
I'll give you a pass, Amanda. I'll give you a pass. Give you a pass. All right. So how are we feeling so far about making and receiving offers? Is this valuable for you?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
Learning so much from this class.
Good. That's my goal. You know, because this is fun business, right? The business of real estate. It's like you do so much work to get these clients. It's not easy, right? Got to lead generate. We got to make buyer presentations. We got to make listing presentations. We have to get agency agreements signed. We got to take people shopping. We got to list and market properties. Now we get to do this stuff. It's a lot of work to get here. So we're going to now go through the receive and review the offer checklist. Okay, so now we have our listing agent hat on, right? And when these offers come in, we make sure that the offer is complete, right? Has everything been signed where it's supposed to be signed? Did they sign the property disclosures? Did they send me in a pre-approval? We look at all those things as a listing agent. Did they get the offer to the seller in a timely manner? We have an obligation to present offers as they come in. If you're a listing agent and you're going on vacation when you have properties listed and you're not going to be monitoring offers coming in, get a backup. Okay, this is real business. This is money on the table for your sellers. Your sellers are stressed out, right? Let's just talk about that psychology of a seller right now. By the time we get to receiving offers on their behalf and presenting it to them, they're exhausted. They're stressed out. They've had to do repairs and get the house ready and have it show ready and have it ready for open houses. They've had to have strangers walking through their house, opening up their closets. Like, ew, people don't like that. It's a lot for them. Now they're excited and anticipating offers. So we need to make sure that we're doing a good job. If we are receiving an offer and we don't have all of the information, like their buyer's pre-approval, we need to call and reach out to the other side and get it, right? And we don't go and say, oh yeah, that lazy agent didn't send me anything. I had to make 3 phone calls to get it. We don't do that. Sellers don't need that, but we need to make sure we have all of their information. We need to get the offers over to them. If you're in a multiple offer situation, you might create a summary of the offers because not everything is priced, right? We know what happens when you send an offer over to a seller. They go, where's the price? How much am I getting? They bypass all the other pieces of the offer till they get to the price. We call the buyer's agent. If we haven't heard from them for them to tell us they're sending an offer in, we reach out. Thank you. I got your offer. Can you send me over this? It looks like I'm just missing this. Tell me a little bit now, just like from the buyer's side, I want to know the seller's motivation. I want to know the buyer's motivation. So I have to communicate now to the buyer's agent and ask them questions to see if they're going to answer me or not. Tell me more about your buyer. If they didn't put in there that they have to sell a home in order and get the proceeds in order to buy this one, that should be one of the questions we ask. Because not every buyer's agent puts that in writing. I don't know why they don't. But if the offer is contingent upon the buyer receiving proceeds from the sale of another property, and it's not in writing, we need to ask that question, because sometimes the answer is going to be yes, and we need to know that. Where are they coming from? Ask leading questions to try to find their motivation. What's their timeline? Oh, they're starting a new job? Really? Where are they going to be working? What's their start date? Great, now I know they're urgent to get up here. And I'm writing notes about all of this stuff so I can summarize this to my seller, right? Call the lender if it's allowed in your area. I know in New Hampshire and Maine it is, and I always call the lender. And guess what? They work on commission too, just like us. They want their buyer to go under contract, right? So ask about them. Just got an offer from, Jason Clark. Can you tell me more about his financing? Has he already submitted docs to you? Is he a strong buyer? Great. Thanks for the info. And create an outline document to reference when you call the sellers. Guys, I have Command open when I'm communicating with people. If I'm sending information to my buyers and sellers, please open Command. Please document what you're doing. Couple of reasons. You think you're going to remember and you don't. You don't always remember everything. We're not superheroes, and my memory is not my superpower. That is for sure. That's why we have Command, right? The other thing is that you'll learn this the hard way, just like I have, full transparency. Stuff happens, you put offers out there, you receive offers, you close, time goes by. Then if there's a problem, you need to go back and reference your notes. And if you don't have anything, that's stressful because there are problems that will come up with real estate, okay? So document your stuff in Command. That's what we have it for. Okay. Oh, look at that. It's almost like I knew the slide was coming next, but I didn't cheat and look ahead. Create an offer in Command. Right? So that's what we have this for too. You can create the offer in Command, and you can create multiple offers in Command, and that will also give you some tools in how to have pros and cons for your seller. This is not a Command class. However, please, if you don't have this tool, use another tool. If you don't have a tool, just start using it. The more you practice on it, the faster and more seamless it will get. Personally, I love the opportunities applet in Command. Okay.
And spoiler alert, nobody really gets a chance to not use Command for opportunities because otherwise you don't get paid at this company. I mean, unless you are a nonprofit. Congratulations. I don't think that's why anybody's here though. So I'm going to hijack for 2 seconds just to remind everybody the numbers we have nationally on Command, because we don't necessarily have these numbers for other CRMs. And like Susan said, whatever's in front of you is what you should be using. So when you hear us say Command, we're talking CRM. So if your team is using something else, if you're a solo artist and you've elected to use something else, everyone at KW has access to Command. And obviously you're using it for opportunities to get paid. The numbers we have nationally, if you have, and I'm sure your market center has talked about this, you have at least 201 human beings in your Command and you're actively speaking with them using a smart plan on a regular basis. In the last 12 months, we've seen nationally $119,000 in GCI. At a lot of our market centers, I can speak for 463, that is capper status. Based on our averages at 463 at our market center here in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, we serve Vermont, Massachusetts, and Maine. It's about 10-ish deals to get to capper status. So 119,000 in GCI is going to get our kids there for sure. So understanding Less than that is going to be less than that. And obviously plussing that is going to be huge. The one thing you can do for leverage as a solo artist or a team member or a rainmaker to create more business for you or your people is to add more conversations, i.e. humans, to your database. So if you're lying to yourself, and a lot of people are, no, Timmy, I got my phone. That's my database. No, it's not. That's your Candy Crush machine. Move the humans out of this into a CRM. And if you're a Command user, into Command, and then start to leverage that. Command's going to have the conversations on your behalf while you're doing other things. While you're at your friend's softball game, while you're at a wedding, a funeral, dinner, sleeping, contemplating your navel, whatever you do in your free time. That's leverage. So your phone is not your database. Your database is going to do things for you that's going to create ancillary business for you while you're doing other things. Rant
Tim.
over. I'll be back. Go
But
ahead.
can you,
Yep.
so I'm the Market Center Tech Trainer up here in
Amen.
Portsmouth.
The
but-
wildly talented Melissa Burke, everybody. And
But
if
I
you
do-
don't know who your Market Center Tech Trainer is, find them. And if your Market Center doesn't have one, find them, because your Market Center should have a tech trainer. It's 1987. Things plug into the wall these days. Amen.
Yeah.
Second rant over. Go ahead, Melissa.
So, but he was holding up his phone, and Command does have a mobile app, which makes it
Yes.
so much
I apologize.
easier
Yes. Yes.
to communicate with your sphere, with your contacts in there. Like it uses your mobile apps, haha, to chat, to use the phone, to email. And then when you're done with that app and it closes out, it gives you the opportunity to indicate, how was that communication? Did it go through? Did they answer? So it is really helpful on the go. So you don't have to have your laptop in front of you to be connecting with your sphere. So the Command mobile app, it's KW Command. It's red, kind of like our logo here. Have you guys downloaded it yet? Anybody, show of hands, has anybody downloaded it?
I
Ed?
just did, but I haven't got into it yet, but I just downloaded it.
Yeah, and there was an update this week for the opportunities in particular, Susan. I have to be honest, I haven't explored it just yet. There is some great stuff out there. There's more out there for you, and the tasks have been unified. So a couple of really cool new things that are happening. It's always improving. And like Tim said, there are other CRMs out there, but you already pay to use Command. Whether you're using it or not, you're paying for it. So
Yeah.
you might as well use what you have in front of you. So for me, rant over, Tim and
Okay.
Susan. Thank
Yeah.
you.
You know,
I'm
and
gonna-
I have to second how awesome it is, though, because even when I'm at my desk, I call through my app so that I don't have to type my notes and I can just do the talk to text and it goes through. I absolutely, it's a game changer having that. I can use it on the go, but even just at my desk, I have it open and I call or I text through that. It's super
Third
easy.
and final rant, Susan, I promise.
Yeah, right.
I think
I don't believe it.
I love you too, Brian. Good morning, everybody. So honest to God, guys, I think when we talk about, hey, when it's going to get to a point where I'm going to wander off, I'm going to sit on the beach and drink Mai Tais and I want to sell my business. And we think we're going to sell some brick and mortar, 2 copy machines, and maybe a couple of trash cans and a coffee maker. I don't know what that looks like. No, you're selling a thumb drive. And the data in that thumb drive that you're going to start to curate inside of Command is what you're going to sell. That's going to be your greatness, or it's going to be the future of your business in the grand scheme of things. So, because if you're like, no, I get everybody in my phone. How many times a year does your friend lose their phone and you call them and like it's your best friend, they still don't know your number because people don't remember numbers these days, and you get the reply text of new phone, who dis? Like, you can't hope that your phone that might fall into the lake over the summer is going to have all your hopes and dreams in it. Put it somewhere safe, put it in Command so you can actually update your phone from that. Have a database that's working on your behalf all the time. Get everybody you know out of your Tinder, out of your Bumble, out of your MySpace, out of your Facebook, out of your phone into Command. Every conversation's worth having. Every
Absolutely.
conversation's worth having. Exhaust all your
Absolutely.
conversations.
Do
Yep.
both Timmy and Susan, do you both have everything that's on your laptop on your phone? Meaning everything you use your laptop to do is also in your phone?
Well, as Melissa just said,
No,
through
because
the
I play
through-
solitaire in the morning, 3 games before I.
I meant
It's not on my laptop.
relating to real estate.
Oh.
Well, everything command related that you can do in the wild, because just to understand real quick, Brian, and I'm not the expert, Melissa is, and I promised Susan I'd shut up this week, so I'm going to do that. I promise you guys. When your consumer has the client app on their phone and you're meandering about the planet with your command app, you guys can both be in the wild and communicating, and all of that is landing back. Picture you have an executive assistant. He or she is sitting at your desk in your office. All of it's landing back in a thread in front of them. Every interaction, every transaction, everything is going to go back there. So while you're in the wild, if you're using your command app and your client is using the consumer app, it's all going to matriculate back to command. So you don't lose anything. I make fun of Nathan all the time. You guys will hear me say, if you're keeping all your notes on cocktail napkins and 3M notes and they're flying around the cab of an F-150, that was Nathan Dickey back when he was selling. And I'm currently working on making sure I'm getting all my people in. I've just started going back through and getting mine updated. I'm only through letter B in the alphabet, and I've added 82 people in the past week and a half.
You guys
So
are in a
keep it
great
updated.
position. You know, if you're new, you can create good habits now, as opposed to waiting until you're super busy and then having to backtrack. So
Yeah, as opposed to retraining us a year from now.
yeah, so put it in your calendar. If it's not in your calendar, it doesn't exist. Do not sacrifice your lead gen time. That's your first job. Put it in the afternoon or outside of your lead gen time to put some time in there to be updating your contacts in command. Okay, now we're going to move back onto more fun stuff, which is, sorry, I know you think command is super fun though. It is good. But we're going to get to reaching a decision. And the seller has 3 options, right? We talked about this earlier. They can counter the offer, accept the offer, and reject the offer. And I'm always telling my buyers when we are making an offer that the seller has 3 options. These are the only 3. And when I'm working with my seller, I give them, you have 3 offers: accept, counter, reject. Of course, we don't like just rejecting. We always want to promote for our seller to counter or accept. But those are the options. If they counter the offer, now we get into the fun stuff, which is negotiating contracts, right? Super fun. Anything can be negotiated. That's why the digging into motivation on the other side is super important, because now when you go into negotiations, you have like, some information in your back pocket to help you negotiate, because you might know that they have to have a quick close. So they might take less money because you can get this closed in 25 days. Or whatever it might be, right? It could be, I've walked through this property with my buyer, and I can tell that it's a little old lady that lives here. And I've now asked, and this is a true story, I've asked inquiring questions to the listing agent. Who's helping her? Does she have family in the area? Where's she going? So I know she has no help. She lives by herself. She's old. The house is full of stuff. And I'm in a competitive situation. So now I'm going to get creative, and I'm going to talk to my buyer and say, hey, I know you can't offer over asking price. I know you might not even be able to offer asking price. We know there are other offers. How do you feel about allowing that lady to walk out the door with her suitcase and leaving everything in the house, and you take care of it? Now, that could look like you open the refrigerator and last night's takeout is still in there. There could be trash in the trash can, but you could become a homeowner. That's being creative. And my client got the deal for that, right? So it's not always price. Because would she have liked to get a higher price? Yes. But you know how much stress we took off of the seller's plate by allowing her to just pack up what she wanted to take and go? So get creative and negotiate in a creative way if you can. And it's fun to do that stuff, right? Like how psyched was I? My buyer got the house and I helped a little old lady move. Like, dang, that was awesome. If they accept the offer and there's not negotiation, you begin the contract to close process, which is going to be in one of your future Ignites. If they reject the offer, the buyer agent contacts the listing agent to learn more, right? They might say, remember, put another offer in. If I have a client that rejects an offer from a listing agent perspective, I'm going to say, God, dude, put another offer in. And I also don't have any judgment on how crappy that offer might have been. Because as a listing agent or as a buying agent, we deliver what our clients tell us to deliver. So there are always going to be those buyers that will put a crappy offer in to test the seller's motivation, even if you advise against it. So I can't hold that buyer's agent to the fire for that. I don't come from judgment on that. I just say, hey, dude, my seller doesn't even want to negotiate on that. So I'm going to encourage you to go back to your buyer and maybe put something more palatable in to get the conversation started. That is what an offer is. An offer is a tool to get the conversation started. Okay.
So the offer is not the final, it's to actually start the process?
Yeah, so a couple things with that. You have to also know the market and the property to find out if there's multiple offers. You might not get the chance to put in a highest and best offer, right? We used to hear highest and best being thrown around. If it's multiple offers, you have to prepare that buyer. That we're like, or if you're the listing agent, you might say, we have multiple offers. I'm reviewing them at this time. So your buyer might not have another chance. However, if you're in a situation where you're not in multiple offers and you are working with that buyer that puts in that offer that is unpalatable to the seller, we deliver this from the listing agent perspective. We get the offer, we deliver it. Our script is, great news, Alexis. We have an offer on your property. Okay. Isn't that great? Yeah, awesome. Here it is. Let's review it. They get to the purchase price and they get deflated. You say, you know what? This is a conversation starter. You have 3 options. You can accept, reject, or negotiate. All of this is, Alexis, is an opportunity to get the conversation started. So let's talk about the purchase price. Okay. If they just are like, you know what, I'm just going to just tell them I'm not accepting the offer. Not a problem. Deliver that message back and encourage the buyer agent to resubmit. Okay. Hold on here. A little frozen here.
Have you ever had an offer go through that was under the asking price?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Have you ever had an offer be accepted that was less than the asking price?
100%. 100%.
Why would that happen, or how could that happen? Just nobody else bid, and everybody underbid, basically?
Well, a few things, right? You don't always have a multiple offer situation. I have a seller who is listed too high right now. I've had this conversation. You're listed too high. We don't have activity, right? So if I'm a buyer's agent and I have someone that now sees that property, there's no way I'm going to advise them to write an asking a list price offer. It's been on the market too long. They don't have any offers in. We're going to come in lower. I've run comps. Right? There are prices. If you have a property listed and it's not selling its price all day long, there's only one thing wrong with it. It's the price that you have it listed at. So yeah, you'll see that. And if you dig into the seller's motivation, that little old lady that had to get to Florida and didn't have anybody to help her move was happy to take an under asking price because she was able to leave everything in the house. So there could definitely be reasons. That's why that getting creative part of our values is super important. Great question. And we're going to go back to that market, guys. If you've gotten into real estate in the last couple of years, we haven't really had language around going under contract for under asking price. It's coming back. So we should be prepared for that. Right?
And you're going to get the seller that says, we should do another open house, which is delicious. And your response could be, I appreciate that, Mr. Lindsay. And we'd only be re-advertising to the universe that we're still overpriced.
Yep.
We can tell the story a million times. There's only one internet. Like, when the seller says, put it on the other internet, there's one. They get it in Dubai, and even they think we're stupid. I mean, don't use that language. It's an internal conversation. But in the grand scheme of things, as Gary has been saying for over a year now, when you leave the kitchen table with that initial price, that's the initial marketing price. Because the sellers don't decide the market. The appraisers don't decide the market. The
We don't
weatherman
decide the
doesn't decide
market.
the market. We don't decide the market. The buyers do. The buyers will dictate what the market is about to do. So when you've been on, what's our rule here at 463, Susan? You typically hear me say, 10 days, no calls, 10 showings, no offers. Yeah, she died in the fire. It's time to give it a rebirth, and you reintroduce it however you want to call it. It's I don't like price reduction, price improvement. We'll see over the holidays. Probably just happened in your market as well. Over the holidays, you'll see it disappear for 30 days and it comes back brandy new. That's another way to do it. But like ultimately, when they're asking for do another open house, or I think it's the crooked driveway, or we're in a weird part of town. No, it's the price, Mr. Lindsay.
Yep.
It's the price.
It's the price.
If you change the price, does it still stay on the market? Meaning everyone can see that it used to be 500,000. Now it dropped down to 435. Can everybody see that after you've changed the price?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, people can find that stuff out for sure. People can find that stuff out. And what we do is we just tell our if it's not selling, you tell your seller, look at, we know that so we talk about seller psychology. Buyer psychology is they're not going to go look at an overpriced house most of the time. The majority of buyers right now don't want to put in an under asking price. They think that it's just a waste of their time. So they're watching the market. They're watching your house sit on the market and they're waiting for you to make a change. When we make enough changes to induce some activity, that's when we'll know we have the right price.
So you're not going to fool anybody by overpricing it.
No, you're just wasting time on the market.
No. And then your seller ends up chasing the market. Like right now, the conversation, because I think a lot of people probably heard right around chicken giving, and they're like, oh, we're going to wait for the spring. So do they mean like, what does spring mean to your seller? Right. So finding out from them, do they mean like the vernal equinox, March 21st? do they mean April 1st? Like, what does spring mean? And waiting until everybody else goes in. I would always use the language like, I appreciate that, Mr. Lindsay. We have an opportunity right now because we're 90 days out, guys. Don't forget, today's January 27th. It's April 27th. We're 90 days out. That's how we're playing, right? So today's April 27th. Somebody sits down with Susan Kenyon today. Susan's probably going to get a seller to a closing table around April 27th. So if they meant they wanted to be moved by March 21st, we could be honest about that conversation. Then above and beyond that, in the grand scheme of things, they have a chance right now to set the spring market, not join it later.
Yeah.
So there's only 4 homes for sale in your town, Mr. Lindsay. You can go in and reset the conversation rather than join it later when there's 50 houses on the market, which we probably won't see this spring. And it's always, and don't leave the kitchen table with the best place to get your first price improvement is before the public hears about it. Get your seller to move the needle before you go live. That's your first price improvement, because you're going to sit down and invariably, Susan, how many times have you sat at a kitchen table and you're like, well, Mr. Lindsay, based on the market data, because we're not giving them our price, we're helping them interpret the market. Based on the market data, this is our success window. More often than not, your seller's like, well, no, I want your commission to be horrible and my price to be horrible. And then a lot of people will be like, cool, sign here, because they're desperate. Yeah. But if we can get them to understand this is the success window and move them, and then go on with our initial marketing price that's closer to market truth, we're going to win. Because to your point, Brian, if we keep walking it down every Friday at 445, $5,000, what are you going to do? You have a whole market waiting. Watch this. Lindsay's going to move it again this weekend. Friday at 445. It's like clockwork. He's going to drop it another $5,000.
You're not fooling anybody.
Yeah. Your first price improvement to the public should be substantial. So you want an initial price improvement to happen privately between you and your seller at the kitchen table, and then hopefully only have to make one more should you need to make one more, not walk it down, because everybody's just going to sit there and be like, we'll wait till August. We're going to get this for $16 in August. We'll wait, and that's a disservice to everybody. Everybody.
Yep. Yeah. And it is important. I'm glad you brought up that, the language, words matter. The language that we use matters. And they want to put it all on us, but it isn't up to us. And we need to use language like the market will tell us, the market is telling us. What the market is saying today is this, right? It's not Susan Kenyon saying you're overpriced. The market, we're going to listen to the market. We have no activity. And so do I have sellers that will insist on listing higher than what I think they should? Absolutely. And the next conversation is, we won't let you sit on the market. We will listen to the market. And this is what the market may end up telling us. If we have no activity, the market is saying you're too high. If we have a lot of activity and we don't have offers, the market is telling you you're too high. If we have an open house and no one shows up, the market is telling us that you're too high, because we're marketing it. We've got professional photography. It's on the internet. I've done a lot of digital marketing. I can see that people are viewing it. I can see that it's in people's listing carts. They can go on Zillow and see how many buyer saves there are. They can see how many times it's been viewed. The market is telling them. And so that's the language that we need to use. We don't get upset with them, but we do interpret the market. And here's the other piece. Back in our value system, communication is important. You know what a lot of agents don't want to do? Call and tell them why their houses aren't selling. But we have to. Picking up the phone is really important. When you talk to people whose houses didn't sell and you ask them what they didn't like about their agent, it's probably because they most likely going to say they never communicated with them. So communication in our value system, I'm sure it's on that slide, is in every session for a reason. We need to be communicating when we're making and receiving offers. And this is a good segue into something that we haven't talked about. Henry says, you may have touched on it, but I was away from my computer. Would you be able to speak on the importance of setting an initial price and strategies that go into it? Okay, I guess we are kind of talking about that. And I'll circle back to that a little bit more in just a minute. How we communicate is important. And when we're talking about making and receiving offers, there's a time to text, and there's a time to email, and there's a time to pick up the phone, and there's a time where you might do a combination of all of those things, right? If you're making and receiving offers, so if we're receiving offers on behalf of a seller, got all my docs into my system, and I'm sending it over, I'm texting. Hey guys, great news. I just texted you an offer. Take a peek and I will call you to review it. I'm setting the expectation, right? You have it. I want you to pull it up and look at it before I call them and review it. Or maybe I don't, right? Maybe it's a terrible offer and I really need to get on the phone with them first. Right? Either way, in that scenario, I'm doing two things. I am calling and I am emailing offers. And I may be texting.
If you were representing a seller, do you already do all your homework before you sit down with them? So you already know in advance what the success window is that Tim was describing?
I do. My personal style is I print active comps that are, so we're looking for things in the area that are similar to that property. That's your window, right? And I want to point out what is active on the market so we know who their competitors are. I want to print out what's active and under contract so I know what has gone under contract, and I'm going to highlight the days on market. How long did it take them to get under contract? And I'm going to print closed. I'm going to hope I can get a good sampling of that with only going back 30 days, especially in the market that we're in with numbers shifting on the financing side. I might have to go back 60. And I don't want to send them 20 of them in each category. I want 6. That's my sweet spot. I like 6. I really love to have it printed out so it's like all on one page color of the properties. I might put 5 for the active so that I can then say, and look at that. If we went on the market at a price that would cause buyers to want to look at your house at this price range, you could sit right here and those properties will sell your house. If you go way above what's already active on the market and there's competition, great. I'm going to call those agents because we're going to sell their house for them. So there's a reason why we want to know active comps. So if there's 5 ranches and you're going to be the next ranch and you're going to be 20 grand over these guys, they're going to be so grateful to see your listing go live because you'll sell that property for them. We want to know what's under contract. How long did it take them to get under contract? And we want to know what's closed. That's what I do. I don't do anything fancy. I do print out another report that talks about days on market and stuff like that, I won't get into today because it's not appropriate for all the different MLSs that we use, but that's what I do. And I also go through all of those properties and I know what I'm looking at. I know where they are, so I can talk about the neighborhoods and locations. I've gone through the photos so I can talk about their house is completely renovated. Yours is nicely said dated. So we have to price appropriately. I can tell them what the condition of the property is. I can tell if it's a flip or not a flip because they're going to want to know. And your sellers might know about all those properties. So if you bring this information and you don't know about them and they do, you don't look like the most professional person sitting at the kitchen table. Your sellers do. So do your homework for sure. We should all be knowing what our market looks like. Okay. Maybe you've been into some of these. If you haven't and you've had the opportunity to go into them, go to the open house, check them out, know what your market looks like. And as far as speaking on the importance of setting an initial price and strategies that go into it, that's the conversation that I have, Henry. I start by showing the active, I then move into the active under contract, I then go to the closed. I already have a number in my head of where I want to land. My goal is to show them all of this information and walk them to that bucket that I want them to be landing in. Then I put my pen down and I say, so based off of I want to know their number first before I give them my number. I ask them, what are your thoughts on where we should be pricing your house? If they come in way lower, I can give them good news. I think we can come in a little bit higher. Sometimes if you do it well, they might come in right with where you're at, or they might come in way higher. Then we go back to our belief system and say we come from curiosity. Well, tell me more about that. One of the first things they're going to say is, I need to clear this much money. Well, the market doesn't work on how much you need to clear. The market is telling us that if we go on at this price, you're probably going to be selling all of these houses over here. If you think you're going to have that, and vice versa, and let them sell your house. If they have to get to Florida and they have to get there now, great, let's price it so that these houses sell your house. If they're going to be really adamant on price, and you know that going into it, I've printed out color pictures of the competition showing what a better house at that price is than what they're looking to go in at. Or maybe you have something electronic where you can pull that up and say, great, let's go through these photos and let's look at what your house is compared to this house, because that's your competition. And we're saying these things in a way that's not insulting because this is someone's home. However, I start these conversations with saying, what you will always get from me is I will be very direct and honest with you. Because I would rather be direct and honest with you and be able to deliver what you need than to just be someone that tells you what you think you want to hear. Because my job is to help you make good decisions. Is
one of the things you would say to them, we don't want this thing to be dead on the market, meaning if it's X amount of time and it's priced too high, it's going to be a dead lead, basically a dead sale?
Yeah, I would anticipate you sitting on the market at that price, and we will know right away. We will know right away. The market will tell us if no one comes to our open house at that price. And listen, I'm going to be investing money here in this. Like now I need to nicely say this, but in my head, I'm like, I'm going to be paying for photography, my time. I may have other expenses. I have an assistant that loads in all my stuff for me. I've been paying her to sit there and do that. So if I'm going to take an overpriced listing from someone who says, well, if I get that price, then great. But if I don't, I'm fine with just staying. I might walk away from that because their motivation isn't high enough if they will only take a pie in the sky offer. Tell me more about that. Well, I don't have to move. It's like, I like it here. I just thought I'd see what I could get from it because my Zestimate says this. cool, I might be able to refer you to somebody else. You know what I mean? Like, so you have to walk, like you're in communication with them at a high level because we need to know their motivation. We need to know how we're going to be able to help them and help them make the best decision for their family. And this is our job. This is how we feed our families. I don't have time to be working with people that really will only take a ridiculous price for their house because they don't have to move. They just want to see if they could get it. Once in a while, you'll find that. Is it ever a possibility to split the price for things like photography with your client if they see the value in it? Henry, everything is optional. You can have them pay for it and then, you know, maybe you pay them back out of closing or maybe you don't. Everything's negotiable. But professional photography is important because the first showing is when you put it out on the internet. If you have a strong enough first showing on the internet, you'll be inducing people to take a second showing by walking through your front door. Right? Does that help?
So there's times, you know, I'm gonna put this on the market at this price. Our first open house is gonna be fantastic and we're gonna close the deal. And you also know nobody's gonna show up for this open house. We're way over the price. So you know all this information before it happens.
You do. You do. I don't ever overpromise because I would rather underpromise and overdeliver. So if I'm priced right and it's competitive, I'll let them know I'm expecting a strong showing at your open house. We may even receive offers this weekend. Let's be prepared for that. Are you going to be around? Okay. You're getting it online, you know, a few days before the open house. You're not jamming it in there on a Friday night with an open house on Saturday. You need to have time to market it. You need to do your job that way. But yeah, you know, they're looking to us for information on the market. That's our job. Whether it's preparing to go on the market, I'm probably like stealing somebody else's thunder on a previous or future module. But that's our job, to know the market and to set those expectations of activity, of what has happened, what has sold, what are people seeing for days on the market, what have the prices been, how many of these homes have had price reductions. That when we come to people with knowledge and information, it validates their trust in us to want to work with us and trust our opinion when we talk about price. But the reason you have proof in written comps is because it's not my opinion on your house, it's the market's opinion on your house. And I want to help you make the best decision for your family. And I want to get you to California or Florida or wherever it is you're trying to go in the timeline. So if they say, I want to be there, I want to be somewhere for May, let's talk about that. Let's talk about your schedule, because we need to do these things to your house to get it ready for market. We need to do photography. We need to get online. We need to have an open house. We need to price it correctly. We need to receive offers. And then we have a 30 to 60 day window before we close. That means we should be on the market really soon. Like, let's get ready to get on the market today. Doesn't that sound great? So we're working with a lot of components to our sellers when we're getting them ready. That's why the making and receiving offers part, they've already been through so much stress. We need to make the making the receiving offers part good. And we need to talk to them about, you know, all of the offers that came in and why one might be better or worse than the other. Because somebody's a strong buyer, or maybe they have a house to sell. If your seller is now buying a house and the buyer for their house has a house to sell, you now have 3 transactions lined up. Is it better to take an offer that's $5,000 less and remove the first house? Yeah, 100%. So much less risk. So much less risk for your seller. And that's what we have to talk to them about when we're receiving offers, is it's not just about price. They want to jump to price. But where is a deal at risk of falling apart? And when we're receiving offers and there's more than one of them, that's what we work with. And we can move into recap and ahas. So at the beginning, I said, if you had anything today that resonated with you or, you know, kind of made you go, oh, what is that? Or like, how has this helped you guys? What are your ahas from today? And what maybe has changed your thinking about making and receiving offers, or anything else that we talked about?
My aha is I don't know anything. You are a mountain of information.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You'll get there. You just got to start today. Hey, I have a great tip for you, Brian. Start writing some offers on properties. Go to an open house this weekend. Go to 2 or 3 open houses this weekend. Go back to your desk.
I had a surgery right before Christmas. I've been laid up. I can't leave my house.
Then find another way. I'm sorry that you had surgery. I hope you heal quickly. Get online and find a property that you like. Then get all of the information that you would need to write an offer. If they don't have any information, call and get a property disclosure. Call the town, get the tax card, get the tax bill, and then practice writing the offer. Just filling out the form. Have you guys all read every line in a purchase and sales agreement? Multiple times? Could you read it upside down? Do you know that line 9 in New Hampshire is about title? If you don't, start there. Then you'll be ready, Brian. You will. I know you will, because I can tell that you want it. Anybody else have an aha?
You'll hear Nate say all the time, Susan, that we're a teaching hospital, right? So to her point, go just grab the address of the house that you adore and look at it. If there's online videos, and I'm speaking to Brian specifically, but if you guys that can get up and march around, go do B, like she said. But if it's Brian, find the property online, track down videos you can, and tour it to the best of your ability that you can, Brian. Look at all the information, run the CMA to the best of your ability, write the offer, and just and find somebody in the market center that'll be able to look at that for you and walk you through it, right? We want to, when we work with our clients in real life, that's when we're performing surgery. And there's going to be foibles that take place when that happens too. And when we can work on cadavers at a teaching hospital, let's do that now. So if we can do everything behind the curtain right now and not be life or death, let's get all the kinks out of the way. Earlier, I think it was Amanda O'Brien said the first deal she wrote, there were 13 mistakes, and that's going to happen. And this just in, spoiler alert, you're never going to know it all. And the contracts are going to change over time. The conversations and the nuances and how we approach these contracts and the conversations we have are ever changing. So get into your contracts classes. Remember, we're in a teaching hospital. Find a cadaver online, start with that, and just take it through its paces. So when you get to real life, it is second nature. The fast twitch muscles have already gone through the process, and your client's going to feel more cared for.
Absolutely. Start running comps on that. You know, pick that house, run comps on it, find actives, find under contracts, find closed, figure out what price point you would put at that. You know, if you were making an offer, call and get more information on it. The more you do it, it's like scripting, right? When we talk about having conversations and people are like, I don't want to script, doesn't sound like me. The more we practice, it doesn't sound like us. The more we practice running comps, the faster we get at it. And we show our clients how great we are. Like that, they want us to be great, and they deserve for us to be great. So let's be great for them. They'll have more confidence in you, so that when you are going to have a hard price conversation, they're going to receive that conversation much, much better. Much, much better. Anybody else have an aha that they might want to share?
Yeah, I didn't know that we can ask the seller agent about the offers they received. So that information was good, and how we can mediate with the seller agent to get that to a closure.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, we can ask anything. They don't have to tell us anything. And you'll learn which agents will tell you more than they probably should. Just keep asking, and until they shut you down. And really, you know what it's about? Just having rapport. So you're like, I'm trying to get this offer. I really want an offer for you. A strong offer from my buyer to your seller. Tell me more about what they're looking for. Tell me more about what they've already seen. Yeah, that's awesome.
Hey, Susan, if you were selling a house and Tim showed up with a buyer, or Tim was selling a house and you showed up with a buyer, would that kind of instantly kind of take the weight off, because you know that you're both top quality agents and you're not messing with scrubs, so to speak?
Yes. That may play a part in it if I know that I can get to the table with him. Like I know, like if I know the other agent always has like very qualified buyers, they're not going to be a pain in my hiney over inspections. They're going to be straightforward in dealing with me on negotiating. They're not going to throw hissy fits. I mean, you're going to see all that on the other side of the table. If I can avoid that, then it behooves my seller. It's always about my seller. If I know one, and I've had this conversation with agents that completely disagree with me, that think that the other agent your opinion of the other agent or experience with the other agent shouldn't have any bearing on how you communicate that to your seller. I personally believe it does, especially if I know that my seller has got to be sitting at that closing table by a certain date. And I'm very unsure that this person's going to get us there, because there could be a lot of problems, and I don't anticipate all these problems, and everything else is lining up for them. It does. And it's not always on experience too. I could have that with a new agent if they are showing me that I'm going to be able to work with them. Ultimately, I want what's best for my side of the table. You know, I need to be making them happy. That's where my fiduciary responsibilities lie. Okay. All right. Anybody else have anything? Okay. Or questions, if any questions pop up. Daily success system. So I know you guys have seen this, right? Every session. And, you know, the math doesn't lie. The number is 10. It's not 8. It's not 2. It's not 5. It's a minimum of 10 conversations and 10 contacts added and 10 handwritten notes. And guys, boy, the handwritten notes are awesome and so easy. If you don't have a stack of cards, like not business cards, like cards to mail out, go get some. It's inexpensive. And the more we show people that we care, the more effective our relationship will be with them. Sometimes it's just I was great connecting with you today on the phone. So happy to see that your family's doing well. I look forward to, you know, our next chat in a couple months, whatever. People love a handwritten note. I don't allow anything in my office to go out of my office with a label on it. Everything has to be handwritten. The envelope, the return address, that's just part of something that's important to me. I keep a box of sympathy cards. Congratulations, you're pregnant cards.
No.
Your pet died cards. I have pet died cards. You know, for all those
Your pet is
occasions, and
pregnant
blank.
cards. You
Your
never
pet is
know.
pregnant
Yeah. You're gonna have a litter of puppies. You need a bigger house. Yeah.
Right?
You never know.
People love it. People love it. And not only that, it feels good, right? It feels good to make other people happy.
I love that Edward Ford just asked what I was just about to say. Do not get lost in the matrix, Edward. Like she's saying, go get cards. She does not mean go to Vistaprint and look for the right, you know, there is a style design kit actually from KW for the KW Reds. That aside, we mean march over to Christmas Tree Shop, get 8,000 butterfly note cards for 4 cents.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not worried about it saying Edward Ford, you know, Realtor Esquire, blah, blah. I don't care. I want it to be about me. It's about the end user. I don't care. Like, I want it to be appropriate. Don't have it be like an inappropriate picture on the front, but like anything.
Yeah.
Anything. It doesn't have to be embossed. It doesn't have to say, because you want it to be personal.
Yeah.
Because if you're sending this out after the call,
if it's not.
Yeah, it's Kenyon writing to me the night she called me, and I'm going to get it in the next couple of days. Hey, Timmy, great catching up with you on the phone. You know, I please remember to keep me in mind if you hear anybody say real estate, and here's a couple of business cards, which I would drop in whether they asked or not. They probably like, oh, that's great. Congratulations. Hey, give me a card when you can, because you're not in person. Ultimately, we're going to go back. We're going to go back to the consumer app. I want my app on their phone. That is the digital business card they'll never lose. I want to infect their phone. People don't delete apps, right? Unless they have a really bad Google Pixel 1 and they don't have enough space. Nobody's deleting an app. It will always be on their phone. And then as soon as Kenyon's version of that app is on my phone, when I give it to Melissa Burke's getting her app. I keep passing it around. And it's a digital business card that can be replicated time and time and time again. So
Yep.
don't overthink your handwritten note cards. Just go buy 8 million from the Christmas tree shop for $1.
I just
Please.
got these from Dollar Store to introduce myself.
Perfect.
Amen. Perfect. Yeah. Don't overthink
Perfect.
it. Overdo it. Nobody's going to be offended. You wrote them a handwritten note. It's 1987. Nobody's doing that anymore. And you're
What
going
if,
to
like-
stand out.
What if, like myself, I have the handwriting of a fifth grader?
Yeah. I mean, here's the
Get
thing.
someone else to write them out, or just
You-
take your time and have it be authentic.
Yeah, I
and
would
keep
rather have it be
keep your
authentic.
message short.
Yep.
Hope you're well. Great talking to you. Talk soon.
Yeah, Brian,
I mean,
I write like a serial killer too. So I would just keep it I just
short.
keep it super short. You know, Henry, great catching up with you. Have a great afternoon. Here's a couple of business cards. Looking forward to catching you for a coffee or a cocktail.
yeah,
And always end it with talk to you soon and for the next conversation.
yeah. It's good to be authentic, and I can appreciate not everyone has great handwriting, and it might take you a little bit longer to do the 10 handwritten notes, but I encourage you to just do it anyway. We sometimes overthink things. Don't overthink it. Just do it. Keep your 10 cards right on your desk while you're making your calls. And if you are done lead generating and you don't have all of those written out, then you keep going. Because guys, I'm going to be chasing you down out there in the marketplace. So you're going to be competing against a lot of me's out there and all of each other. Whoever does the most will win the most. And it's not about getting complicated. Simple things done consistently will win every day over people trying to get really complicated and taking their time and never getting it out there.
Edward's got a quick question. Go ahead.
I have a question. Just starting, brand new agent, starting with KW, not even 2 weeks yet.
Edward, when did your license come in?
My license came in right before Christmas or right before
Okay,
New
so
Year's.
I love you, and that was the day you were new. You're now a growing agent.
I love it.
Stop saying
Yes.
new out loud. Nobody wants to hear that.
True.
I don't want to hear it. I love you, but you're a growing agent. The day your license came in was the day you were new. Okay.
All right. Sounds
Awesome.
good.
Yeah.
Sounds good. New to Ignite. How about that? So,
Yes, sir.
All right. So question on the enrichments. Just what are those referring to? I'm looking at this. This is a daily success system.
Yeah.
10 of 10, 10 of 10, et cetera, et cetera. All right. Appointments, agreements, closings. I get that. What are the enrichments? What does that mean?
Real quick on social media, I want to make sure you guys understand that too. So the 10 on backing up one quick, because I don't think we drilled down on this yet, Susan.
Not yet. Yeah.
10-5-1, 10 hearts or likes. So go through social media and don't just do it to check boxes. Find things that you truly think are thumbs up or something that you love. And 10 hearts or likes on other people's posts, 5 comments. And our regional productivity coach, Tiffany said, and this is great, Tiffany Hampton said, 5 comments of 5 words or more, right? The great Nathan Dickey loves to respond with K. That is the middle finger of texting, right? So 5 comments of 5 words or more, not like okay or great, but like 5 words or more. So there's some substance to it. And then 1 post from you. And if people play really hard in the social media space, they're going to post on all the social medias, at least 1. And I love all of you. And if you're like, I don't like social media, get over it, climb under it, light it on fire, figure out some format, some social media platform that you can lean into, because people are online. This just in. I know most of you know that, but sometimes we need to hear it more than once. Enrichments, that's like, how are you going to plus it? How are you going to have, and I'll throw this out, and don't go crazy over buying 18,000 books, but do you have a handful of copies of the Red Book, the Blue Book, which is Real Estate Investor, the One Thing? So when you're out and about in the wild and somebody's talking and you've got a friend who's got their own business and they're struggling with focus, I'd be like, hey, I got something for you in my trunk. I want to give you this. And you give them a copy of the One Thing. And then you can check back in on that. Like, it's the old fashioned 8x8. Does anybody remember the 8x8 way back in the day? 1983. Anyway, the 8x8 was, I'm going to drop off. I'm going to give Jason Clark a book, and then I'm going to check in on him with it. It was always like a physical gift or a drop by with
Like
a
an
physical
item of
gift.
value.
Yeah. And then a call back on that. That's an enrichment.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so you might not have that every day, but there are times when that can be very impactful.
It's a plus. Yeah.
For sure. And we're always trying to get appointments, right? Like, get an appointment. Even if it's to network.
Yep.
Get out there. And we need agreements signed. We're not, don't start with having a goal of a closing. We can't get to sitting at a closing table if we don't have an agreement signed. We can't get an agreement signed if we don't have appointments. We can't have an appointment unless we get on the phone and connect with people in our database, so that the daily success system is how you end up at the closing table. It's the beginning part. And we need to do it every day. Otherwise, our income looks like a roller coaster, right? Because we get someone under contract, we spend all our time working on that. It's so awesome. I'm not going to do anything else. That closes. And since you haven't done anything else, you haven't set any appointments, you don't have any more agreements. This is it's a pipeline, and it needs to be consistently fed, and it should be hungry all the time. So feed it. Yep. And, lead generation can be a bunch of different ways. I'm kind of a weirdo, and I'm totally okay with that. I go to the grocery store. I get business from going to the grocery store. My people are there. That's where my people see me. Then I go home and I'm on Facebook with them, and sometimes my handwritten notes are from Facebook, like reaching out and just saying how much I love seeing their family or their pets or something that's important to them. And maybe I'm really trying to connect with someone. Love seeing that on Facebook. Saw you got a promotion. That is just fantastic. You're killing it. Those are their tools. We need to be calling people, but there's lead generation that might just be organic to us. Your kids' teams. I've got adult kids. My son was on a swim team many years ago. I'm still getting business from the swim team because I see all the swim parents at the grocery store. Then I connect with them on Facebook. Then I pick up the phone. They remember me. It's my job to make sure that when they have a real estate need, they think of me. Because there's a lot of us out there, and you can see on people's friends list how many other real estate agents that they're friends with. What is going to cause them to reach out to you as opposed to the other person?
It's a great point, Susan. Jason Abrams, you guys will hear Jason Abrams always talk about this. What are you currently near that you're not in? Right. So Susan was at a swim meet and she's standing there with all the other parents. The commonality is that we all have people in the pool right now, but one of us is a real estate agent. And every 5 to 7 years, you guys are going to be looking for a place to move to. So and it's not every time she shows up, she's handing out business cards, asking if they're transacting in the next 10 minutes, but she's being ever present. She's somebody they know and love and trust because they share the commonality of kids that swim. And then when they need to be transactional, she's going to be around because she's always at the pool, always adding value and just showing up as a fellow parent, not transactional, but just experiential. I'm there with you. We're cheering on our kids together. And when you need me, I can help you sell, buy, or invest.
Yep.
It's that simple.
Yep. One of my favorite Gary quotes is dealing with business never takes the place of finding business. So today we talked about dealing with business, receiving offers and making offers. None of that ever takes the place of finding business. We don't get a chance to run our business until we have grown it. We've got to grow our business first. And it's just a constant, Okay.
To give you one of my 8 million food analogies, if people think about real estate in a different way, I think we spend a lot of time making sure the lighting and the seating and everything about the front of the restaurant is just so before we open the doors. It's going to be a non-starter when you open your restaurant and there's no food in the kitchen. We have to have people to work with. We have to have the appointments. We have to have the conversations. We have to have the leads. That is the fuel of our business. So it doesn't matter if you have the right flatware. If you have the right lighting at the bar, nobody's coming because there's no food in the kitchen. Mm-hmm. There's no end game for them. So if we can't serve them, if we can't feed them with what the industry needs, which is buyers and listings first, of course, because the buyers are looking for listings,
Yep.
So be aware of that, guys. Don't overthink it.
Don't overthink it. Just do it. But let's do it with not calling people on the do not call list, right? Super important. The do not call list is people that do not want to be called. So we shouldn't be calling them. If we do call them,
is that what that means?
I'm so sorry.
Huh.
I bet you have never had someone define it like that.
And I know our market center was at our post-holiday party last night, so a lot of us are squinting again. If you look at the fine print, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, it's been a long night today. It is $43,000 per violation. Not like, oh, you had a bad day. You had 7 violations in one day, 7x to 43,000 per violation. It is a class action suit that is still ongoing, I believe. And a lot of brokerages are involved with it. This is why we're talking about it so much. And we were involved in it as well. That's why every training, this slide is definitely going to show up, because Gary wants to remind us, use the do not call list.
Yeah, and this is a
Right.
you fine. This is not a brokerage fine. Like
Yeah.
you will get fined. You know, Nate's not paying this fine. And seriously, there's enough people out there. Find the people that want to talk to us. And go after more of that. Oopsie, I went too
Well,
fast.
even more important, Susan, if your Aunt Julie is on the do not call list, it's not for you. Aunt Julie doesn't want to hear from Amway. But when you call your Aunt Julie and you're talking to her and like, hey, how's Mittens the cat and all this stuff, and she's like, hey, I heard you got your real estate license. I did. As soon as you bring up real estate, she'll be like, oh, we got to stop talking now. I'm on the do not call list. You're her nephew. You're her niece. So the people that you know and love and trust aren't going to slap you with the do not call list. The people on the do not call list that hate other humans, that don't want a set of knives or a realtor calling, are going to slap you. And it's 40. Did I say 43 grand? I'm going to say it again. 43 grand. Gary's not writing the check. Nate's not writing the check. Your OP's not writing the check. Aunt Julie's not writing the check. It ain't fun. And unless you got discretionary 43 grand, if that's the case, Susan and Zoe and I will be down. You can take us to lunch. Nobody's raising their hand. So don't do it. Said with love.
Yeah. I like this quote so much that I'm old. I still use a notebook every day. It's a notebook, and I get a new one the beginning of every year, and that's what I use. And the first page, I put a quote in it, and I have it if I want to put more things in there, during the course of the year. And this is the first one that I wrote in it because I really feel like this, and I read that quote before I get on my calls. I engage every conversation in the spirit of contribution, and people are happy to be in relationship with me. Because how we show up here, how we feel about ourselves, and the calls that we're making is important. And I need that to come across in my voice when I'm talking to them. So I engage every conversation in the spirit of contribution, and people are happy to be in relationship with me. So if I feel that way, I'm not afraid to pick up the phone, right? So it's really a great quote. If it resonates with you, then write it down and read it every day before you make your calls. It really does help when you're making your calls, that you already have that kind of a mindset, that you're coming from contribution and that people are happy. They're happy to be in relationship with you, and they're happy to hear from you. We're not doing that. I do also use that book as my checklist. So I will start today with, stuff that I had written down to do last night before I left the office. I kind of carry it over on my little checklist. That's what works for me. There's also the tasks app option in Command that might work for you if it's electronic, if it's in writing, whatever it is. Just find it and use it. The one that works the best is the one that you'll use. Okay. Lead generation, update contacts and follow up. You know what? That's the follow up that gets you the business. You can put a bunch of people in Command, but if you don't ever follow up with them, then you'll go on Facebook and they will have listed with me. Sorry. That's the way it works. You got to follow up with people. And celebrate successes. So I celebrate successes. Like when something goes well, I'm like, if it feeds me, I'm that person that likes to like have big wins and like talk about them, but then move on. And I don't know if that's what that slide is supposed to be telling me to tell you, but then I move on and get more business. Does anyone have any successes that they want to share with the group? Get some for the next one. Get some for the next one. We talked about the making and receiving offers, and we didn't get into the negotiating offers very much because there will be a session on that tomorrow. Really powerful session. We are coming out of the market where you could just pretty much like get a buyer and sell a house like instantly with 25 offers and $1 gazillion over asking. Like, we need to be more practice at skill. We need to be able to negotiate offers. And I'm talking to a lot of agents right now with the transactions that I have going on. And we're excited. We're like, guys, we're negotiating offers again. Isn't this awesome? And it is. Negotiating is fun. But there's skill involved in that. So tune in tomorrow to dip your toes in the water of negotiation. Okay.
Do you mean
And-
Monday?
Oh, tomorrow, today's only Friday? Yes, I do mean Monday. I do mean Monday. Good catch. Good catch. I lose track of my days very frequently because
Nobody's down for Saturday
work on
Ignite, really?
weekends.
I was
Yeah.
excited about it. I was
I
super
know.
excited.
I'm
for
going to be
something there.
walking land tomorrow.
Yeah.
Ooh. Hey, Henry,
Yeah, actually, I'll see if can you hear me?
I can.
Uh-oh.
Well, maybe
No,
I can't.
No, you sound like you're underwater, Henry.
Okay. Yeah, if you can still hear me, it's a question at this moment.
Put it in the chat. There we go. Cool. What do we got here?
Henry's gonna go get his
So-
first GCI check, and then he's gonna buy a new microphone. We're very excited for you, Henry. It's gonna be
Dudes.
great. It's gonna be great.
I know
Yeah,
I look
she's-
like I'm 85
No,
years
but
old with
you're
this.
you're super clear with that.
Best
Yeah,
thing.
you're landing planes, kid. Landing planes. Looks
I
good.
tell you what,
Yep.
as soon as I put it on, I know I'm going to work.
Yep.
It-
Amen,
it-
sister.
It's just like, oh, I'm working. I got people to talk to. People are waiting to hear from me. So you're 19 years old, college student, new to KW. I am focused on getting comfortable with all of the logistics for the next couple of weeks before starting lead generation consistently. That you should change. I agree that it's easy to get caught up in the little details, but I was curious if you think this is, if you think this approach is a good idea, or if there are other actionable steps I should be taking towards lead generation. So Henry, I would encourage you to just start today. Lead generation, it doesn't even have to be, I'm calling to see if you're looking to sell your house today. It's, I'm excited to call you and tell you how awesome my new career in real estate is. What's new with you? They're going to ask what's new. If you ask what's new with them, they're going to ask what's new with you. Start letting people know that you're doing it. They're going to want to hear from you. You should, and I know that it's intimidating to do that. Start with people that already know you, your family, your friends. I bet if you called your other 19-year-old friends, they're going to want to know more about it, because you want to know what real estate is sexy and it's fun and it's fast paced, and they're going to want to talk about it. So tell them what you're doing. Maybe they're going to want to be encouraged to do something new too.
Also,
What-
like your aunts and uncles and stuff that you haven't talked to in 5 years. Those are perfect people to tell what you're doing.
What if you tell them all that and their next question is, really, how much money have you made so far?
I've never had anyone ask me that, and I would probably laugh at them and say, well, if you want me to help me sell someone's house, I'd make more. But I've never had anyone, in 10 years, I've never had anyone say that. I don't know. And I've got some weirdo families. I mean, I'm a weirdo, so it means I must be related to other weirdos. And even my family doesn't ask me that. And if somebody asks you an awkward question, you know what the best response is? That is so funny. Why would you ask me that? And then don't say anything.
I like that.
Yeah, the limiting belief there too, as we get started with our careers, is that they are gonna inherently too. I think a lot of us end up working with somebody that we know and love and trust. And those people are putting that trust from some other venue in our life into us in this capacity, because they trust us from other parts of our life. When you're working with that first person, your first unmet that you work with, and they find out that you're in your freshman year, and maybe they understand that you don't have 5,000 other clients. They don't need to know that. You don't have to share that with them for them to find out. So don't. And I'm not saying be disingenuous, but also remind them, yeah, I appreciate that, Mr. Ford. What's exciting about this is, as I get started, you're one of a few clients that I'm working with right now. So you're going to get an inordinate amount of attention from me. And as I grow my business, I intend to scale with talent. So in the future, when I serve you again and again and again and again, my standard's going to be carried on by the people that I bring onto my team. So let's get started. Sign here. Right?
Really, they want to talk about themselves anyway. Ask
Yeah,
them.
you got to remember that you're standing on the sideline. I love to use the Patriots in the past for this, but we're terrible now. You're standing on the sideline with a really great team. So no matter the size of your market center or the 170,000 of us in North America, you chose Keller Williams because of the talent around you, and you can always leverage that. If you trip over a kitchen table this morning in some part of town that you feel like the water is too deep for you, call your team leader, call your productivity coach, call somebody in leadership at your market center and say, hey, I've got a massive opportunity. And that's when you end up with somebody like Susan Kenyon on the other end of the phone, like, hey, I heard from Jeff that you got an opportunity, you need some help. Would you like me to come to the kitchen table with you? Now you're sitting at the kitchen table with Brady next to you. They can't sign fast enough. Get
Kind
him
of
a
like,
sharp
I may,
crayon. Get him a
I may
sharp
be-
crayon.
I may be
know?
on the bench, but have you seen the rest of my bench?
Yeah, I'm getting started. And you guys, before you even say that out loud to another human, remember everybody. Susan Kenyon was a freshman once. And Susan Kenyon's also smart enough to know that she doesn't know all the things. That's why she's constantly in contract. She teaches contracts for us. And you guys were lucky enough to have her for 2.5 hours today plus. So you're in the right place. You got to bring that confidence into all your conversations.
You can do it, guys. You can do it. Start practicing so you're not practicing on your clients. Run the comps, look at properties, get out there, talk to people. And if there's ever anything that I can do, certainly feel free to let me know. I'm easy to find on Facebook. Okay. Does anyone have any questions? I know we ran over and I really work hard on respecting your time. But I'm happy to stay and answer any questions if anyone has anything.
I have a question.
Sure.
So writing note cards, normally you put your business card in there after you like handwrite everything, just so they have it. My question is, what if you're like writing a note card for someone, like you're congratulating them on something you saw, like they got a job promotion or something? Do you put a business card in that, or would you just send the thank you?
So I don't always put a business card in. If it is something, well, definitely like a sympathy card. Don't do
Right.
that.
Not, yeah,
Don't do
right.
that. And if it's a congratulation on a new job, I'd probably stick that in there. If I want them to be able to reach out to me, and I'm not confident that they will, I might do that. If it's like really a handwritten note for something personal, like a new baby or something like that, or you just got married, I don't stick a note card in there. I set tasks in Command to be following up for those things. And maybe my next note card could be like, if say they got a job at Liberty Mutual, and then you just saw something happen about Liberty Mutual, you might write a handwritten note like, hey, I just saw they're making this change at Liberty Mutual. If you know of anybody that could use my help, please give them my number. I would really love the support, and toss your cards in there. So, be a human first. Come from caring first. And if it's just, I've talked to you today and had, great connecting with you today. It was nice to catch up. Toss my card in there for sure.
Okay.
And if you're calling somebody, I've found talk about their job, ask them at least 3 or 4 questions about their job, and inevitably they're going to say, how about you? How's it? What are you doing for work? Blah, blah, blah. So that's just when I'm calling people I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yep.
That's a really good idea.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you guys for your time today. I really do appreciate you making the time to do that. I'm sure that tomorrow's Monday's negotiate the offer is going to be great.
I say we do it tomorrow. Do it tomorrow.
I say we see how many people log on. I'm for it.
We're going to piss off Monday's instructor when she finds out that she has to teach tomorrow, but that's all. I'll call her. I'll do it. I'll do the dirty work.
I appreciate that. And good luck. I know you guys are all going to be great out there. And the biggest person that has to believe that is you. So keep practicing and make your calls. And I wish you nothing but the most success in 2023.
Thank you, Susan.
You were
Thank you, guys.
fantastic.
Thank you.
You're
You
very
guys are
welcome.
awesome.
Have a great weekend.